Good evening and welcome to PSR TV for the 120 minutes of thunder at the Glen, presented by us at InsideSimRacing.tv. I'm Darren Ganji here with my good buddy
Sean Cole.
And this is actually our second special event of the year. You may have seen the first one here on PSR TV, or you may have participated in it, the March on Michigan 300. And that was a truck race at Michigan, fixed race. And today we're here for some road racing, like we mentioned, Watkins Glen. Famous Watkins Glen, one of the most famous courses here in the U.S.
That's right. We're actually here for 120 minutes of multi-class racing. You've got the Riley Daytona prototypes in one class, and then you've got the Cadillac CTS race car in another class. We're running this with iRacing, and we'd like to thank them right off the bat for allowing us to make this an official iRacing session. So that means today, not only are there a lot of prizes on the line, not only is there reputation on the line, but you've got safety rating and iRating also on the line, which is going to keep people running pretty clean.
And that actually is going to affect us as well, because we get to run in this race. Thanks to Tony Stevens and John Hill, who are going to be calling the action for you guys here on PSR TV. I get to run in the Riley, and Sean gets to run in the Caddy. And a little bit about the event. Qualifying has been going on now pretty much all week, on the hour, 15 minutes past the hour, and so that means anybody can qualify at any time during that particular period. Practice sessions have been going non-stop, and as of right now, the Riley pole is in the 135.9 range, and that's probably going to drop a little bit lower, I would imagine. And the Cadillac, this was a shocker to us this morning. Mid 144s. So we're not sure if we're going to make the top split. And actually, as of this airing or production, we're not sure, and it's up to the last minute, where we're going to sit. So we may be in the top split, second split. We're not. He's got a better, I think you've got a better shot at making that top split.
So I'm knocking on 145s right now, and I go to bed looking like I'm going to make the top split. And like you said, I wake up this morning, mid 44s. These guys are just insanely fast, and I'm dropping. I dropped 6 positions. I might not make that top split. So let's talk prizes for this event, Darren. And we do have quite a list, but what some people don't realize is the way the winner is going to be determined. So you have 2 classes, and it's going to come down to differential, winning differential. And if the Cadillac driver, for example, beats second place by a bigger margin than the Riley beats second place in that class, then that would be the big winner of that split.
Yep. Now, there also is going to be another equalizer here, and that's going to be incidents. If one of those guys has an incident that took out another driver. Now, going off course, we're not going to count those. One-timers just cutting the course and stuff like that. And if you cut it too much, you're going to have to pay for it, but there's not really a cutting spot on this course.
Right.
That we're not going to really count. It's an incident that takes somebody out. So if one of those 2 drivers, either the Riley or the Caddy driver, takes out another driver in his quest to win, so in other words, he takes out second place or first place at the time, and then that gap is now huge, and that was a factor in that prize.
Right.
That's gonna factor in. So that gap, biggest gap on a legitimate win, no incidents, that guy gets to pick the prize. And we got quite a list, like Sean mentioned here. And why don't we go over that list?
Okay.
Nvidia is giving up a GTX 670 video card. Grandstand's on board, and they're putting up a wheel stand. GT Omega Racing is putting up their Pro Simulator. Derek Speare Designs has put up a Track Boss button box. And RSeat has a triple or single monitor stand. It's going to be the choice of the winner.
Very cool. In addition to that, we also have the Logitech G27 compliments of iRacing. Tamiya USA is going to be putting up, I'm not sure an RC or a model, but one or the other. Thrustmaster is giving up a TH8RS shifter. We've got the Marcos Ambrose die-cast iRacing NASCAR, and this cool camouflage hat.
iRacing hat.
Yeah,
yep.
That's very unique. I haven't seen those anywhere.
Yep.
And then every winner and every split is going to get an Inside Sim Racing sticker. And on top of that, all of the podium finishers are going to get a certificate that they can put up on the wall. So, big achievement.
Frame it and put it up, that's right. Also like to thank PSR TV for putting up this great broadcast. If you haven't watched PSR in the past, got to check out some of the best broadcasters in sim racing. I'd like to thank Ian Bushing for putting this up. And if you haven't watched, check our broadcast calendar at InsideSimRacing.tv And all of the World Championship races are listed there. So you can watch the NASCAR side or the Grand Prix side and check out some of those great broadcasts.
So back to the event, we're looking at 2 hours here at the Glen. We're looking at probably a 1 pit stop strategy for both classes. And actually the iRacing Granstand Premier Series ran this event not long ago, and they ran about 72 laps. And I think you guys are probably going to be pretty much on the same pace as that, huh?
Yeah, the only difference is we don't have that chicane or the bus stop, which we originally were going to run, and a little bit of confusion, but we actually like this layout better. So everybody's going to go past that bus stop into turn 5, which is going to be a good fast passing zone, and lots of room to pass, lots of runoff just in case there's mistakes. So I think we're going to have a much safer race that way. We'd love to tell you who's on the pole as of right now, but we don't know yet because, as we mentioned, there's still qualifying going as of right this second. So Tony and John will tell you who's on the pole for both classes. Hopefully they'll be able to dive into some of the other splits. Not sure, who they're going to be having help them, but hopefully they'll be able to check in on some of the other splits. We got Pro and C, and then we've got the D and Rookie class. So there's going to be a top split between the Rookie and D class guys as well. So Sean, any predictions on how your 120 Minutes of Thunder is going to go?
I don't know what split I'm going to be in, and that'll affect everything, but it's really going to come down to strategy. I put a lot of work into working with the other class, the Daytona prototypes. I put a lot of effort in my setting them up to pass me as much as they might be setting me up to pass me. So hopefully that'll work to my advantage and make me a lot of time over the course of 120 minutes, and I'm putting a lot of faith in that. So I got to ask you, what about your strategy? And before you even answer, I'm wondering about this scruffy beard thing. Is that part of your secret strategy?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a little superstitious thing. It's like baseball playoffs, hockey playoffs, like Jimmy Johnson, those guys, man, they go full beard. Dale Jr., they go full beard. So I'm going with that. See, hopefully if it helps me out get through the 120. But other than that, first I'd like to thank John Paquin for all his help in the last month. I mean, saw him in one of our hosted servers earlier this month, and he hooked me up with a setup and been helping me and giving me his changes, and that's really helped me get to where I'm at right now. I don't know. Again, I don't know where I'm going to end up split-wise, and that's really going to affect how my race goes. If I'm in the top split, I don't even have a prayer at winning, unless like the top 10 take themselves out, which I pray doesn't happen. Who knows who's going to come out of the woodwork for this race?
That's
so,
very true.
It's going to really depend on where I end up, and I just hope to finish. A lot of it's going to depend on you guys, the Cadillacs, and I think we're going to be passing you guys about 7 to 8 laps in. So that means about 10. You guys are going to probably finish about 10 laps down.
That's going to be crazy.
But it's a good matchup. I like the combo because you guys are only about 7 to 10 seconds off the pace, so it's good for you're not flying up on like the Mustangs with the mixed class when they run it. You're flying up on those guys like they're standing still.
Well, and it means that when we're like going up the hill, if you guys have to be a little patient, we're not holding you up too terribly badly, and maybe that'll allow you guys to be a little patient and give us a little room going up the hill, I hope.
Yep.
All right, well, that's going to about do it for us right here. We're going to hand things over to Tony and to John. And I don't know, this is probably the first thing. You might see us back next year. I think this is going to be a new annual event, huh?
I hope so. And based on the feedback that we've been getting, it definitely looks like it. Before we hand it off, I'd like to thank some of the great sponsors that are on board here, starting with PSR TV and iRacing.com. Without iRacing, none of this would have happened. Also like to thank Nvidia, Grandstand, GT Omega Racing, Derek Speare Designs, RSeat.net, Thrustmaster, Tamiya USA, and us for putting it on.
Yeah, absolutely. InsideSimRacing.tv. I'd also like to thank all the drivers for participating in this event all month long, really, and also for registering to be eligible for the prizes, which you had to do in our forum. So if you're somehow in this race and watching this right now and haven't registered, I'd figure out how to do so if you want to win any of those prizes.
Yeah, and we had over 500 people registered as before we aired this, so hopefully we get even more, and hopefully we get even more drivers. Again, you don't need to register to win a prize, but you want one of those cool prizes we just mentioned, you got to register at our website. So For Sean Cole, I'm Darren Ganji. We're going to wrap things up here for the pre-race show. Going to hand things off to Tony Stevens and John Hill. I'm sure they're going to put a good show on, great show on for you guys. PSR TV always puts on a great show. I'd like to thank them again. And, man, hopefully we'll bring it home in one piece.
Yeah, time for us to get ready and do some racing.
All righty.
Thanks, guys, and welcome to Watkins Glen International in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State for today's 120 Minutes of Thunder, presented by Inside Sim Racing TV. My name is Tony Stevens, joined alongside today by John Hill, and as always, the PSR TV crew, pushing all the buttons and making the magic happen for you, the viewers. Final warm-up underway now, the Daytona prototypes on the speedway, as well as the Cadillac CTSs. We're going to refer to them as our GT cars for the afternoon, and of course the prototypes will be just that, the Daytona prototypes. Full field 40 cars on hand for this 2-hour endurance contest. 15 Daytona prototypes made the top split, 25 of the Cadillac CTSs in this event as well. And John, it has been a very, very tight week of qualifying. Over 700 drivers registered just to be eligible for the prizes. There's no telling how many actually took qualifying time.
We have a bunch of pros here too. Everybody's taking this real seriously.
Yeah, certainly a lot of pros in here, a lot of rookies, and a lot of different skill levels all throughout the field. Now, mind you, of course, this is the top split. We're going to see some of the best road racers iRacing has to offer here this afternoon at Watkins Glen in this 2-hour contest. And about 4 minutes left in this final warm-up precursor to the green flag. You almost have to think, John, it's going to be a very, very strategic race, although 2 hours in endurance terms is not really a long time, considering the number of stops these cars will have to make is really very minimal.
Yeah, the Rileys can go by with one stop from what I'm told, and the Cadillacs are going to have to make 2. Some are going to decide just to do a splash and go near the end for new tires.
So certainly pit strategy going to play into the outcome here of this one. And you never know, you might find somebody that wants to make what you thought would be a one-stop race into a 2-stop race, or vice versa. All about who's going to work it best on top of the pit box. One of the coolest features as well about today's 120 Minutes of Thunder, the number of prizes on hand and available to all those drivers who have entered and are participating in today's events. And we got some more information on that as things come along, but just to give you an idea as to what's on the line for various prizes, and not just the top split. This goes all the way through every single split, all the way down the line. Various splits are eligible for certain prizes, others are not, so on and so forth. But this will let you know what various drivers are running for. An Nvidia GTX 670 video card, a Grandstand Wheel Stand, a GT Omega Racing Simulator Pro, a Track Boss button box, I need one of those, courtesy of Derek Speare Designs, an RSeat triple or single monitor stand, also with your color choice to match your decorum in your race room, courtesy of iRacing, a Logitech G27, I knew I should have raced this race. I need one of those too. A Tamiya USA prize, which will yet to be determined and announced. A Thrustmaster TH8RS shifter. So, of course, road racers shifting a lot. That might come in very, very handy to have the external shifter. As well as iRacing merchandise, apparel, as well as collectibles such as iRacing Marcus Ambrose die-cast race cars. And you never know, we might even throw something else in as the races go on. It's hard to really say. But to be eligible for all these, you have to, A, run well in your class, and B, have a minimal number of incidents. There's a formula posted that all the competitors have been aware of. No, this is what it's going to take. You need to have a minimal number of incidents, and the incidents for this race will be classified as something where you have contact that takes another competitor out. Clipping the grass is not an incident. Doing anything like that is not going to be an incident. But taking another competitor out will be classified as an incident. So, John, it throws a little bit of a kink into things as far as those who are tracking the incidents go.
I'm sorry. The incidents can happen with anything. They can happen with slight contact. They can happen with your tire running off in the grass. They can anything possible can happen will give you incidents. So I really don't tend to worry about it too much, as long as it's not permanent damage.
And just to make things interesting, guys, John, this is something very different to road racing. This is the cool part about iRacing. You get to have fun with everything. You get to do things a little different than maybe you would in the physical racing world. Any other Grand Am race or American Le Mans Series race you go to, the faster cars will start up front. The Daytona prototypes would be at the head of the field. Not today. The Cadillac CTSs are starting in front of the Daytona prototypes.
Gee, I don't know. Was that really planned? That sounds like a recipe for catastrophe to me.
It might be a recipe for catastrophe. However, the best drivers will pick through that traffic faster than the ones behind them. It's going to make a great equalizer. Certain guys will be great by themselves. Others, not so much in traffic. So it's going to be very fun to see how all that plays out. With that said, we're going to take you through the starting grid. And we will start with the Daytona prototypes since they were the fastest ones in qualifying. Starting on the pole overall, well, I guess not since we put it in the back, not overall, but on the pole for the Daytona prototypes, Frederick Falstad and Pavel Binkowski, row number 1 for the DPs. Rest of the starting lineup for the DPs, Nick Versteege, and I apologize to those of you if I anglicize these names because I'm just not that culturally educated, so I apologize in advance. Rory King, 4th quick in DP qualifying, followed by Ricardo Makuka. Omar Soto starts 6th, followed by James Cullen, Chad Holmes, Joe Jr., and Taro Dahlberg, the top 10. Roderick Croonen, David Mata, Ken Leach, Dirk Reinhardt, Alice Simonek makes up the entire Daytona prototype field. Remainder of the starting lineup here for the Cadillacs, these next 25 cars. The fastest 25 Cadillacs in time trials earlier this week. Renato Dornelis starting on the front row alongside Anthony Roselli. Bruno De Carmo starts 3rd in class, followed by Jim Shedlick and Daniel Sinka. Next 5, Doug Lierla, Alexei Uzijakola, Wolfgang Wright, and João Pino, as well as Paulo Valente, make up the top 10 in the Cadillac CTSs. Philip Krutz, Enzo Benito, George Sandman, Ryan Terpstra, Jörg Jens make up the top 15. Jason Lovett, Attila Kiss, Marcus Stohr, Evandro Fracalossi, I apologize, Evandro, and Jimmy Bigham complete the top 20. Final 5 Cadillac CTS starters here today. Pierre Ubizu, Evgeny Dontsov, Marco Arshiankano, Rafael Sankri, and Russell Cow. And I'm sure that my English teachers will be calling me, as will every other foreign language teacher I have ever had in my education career, to tell me I just completely butchered every single one of those names, John.
Yeah, Tony, I'm sorry for holding you up here. I'm still trying to get into the room, but I'm going to do what I can.
So as the field works down the back straight away, again, the Cadillac CTSs going to be at the front of the field. The DPs, the Daytona prototypes, just now coming out of the S's over in turn number 4. Pace car working around that famous turn 5, the hairpin almost here. It's actually it's called Carousel here at Watkins Glen, and of course that would be NASCAR turn 7, or check that, NASCAR turn 9. Technically they do use the bus stop chicane, but it is turn 5. And then we do use the boot section here for today's 120 minutes of Thunder, so you can anticipate lap times for the CTS is going to be about, let's say, in the 145 range or so, and then the Daytona prototype is going to be about the 135 range or so. So about a 10-second differential, and I already apologize because we've already got it backwards. I called all the Daytona prototypes as those who are up in the running order. I was mistaken. Those are the Cadillac CTSs. 15 Cadillacs in the field, 25 Daytona prototypes. I'll get it straight at some point, John. I'm still an oval racer at heart. I apologize. I'm just used to one style of race car on the track at the same time.
Tony, you're doing great, man.
Pace car in the Cadillac CTSs working up the hill, out of the boot, and through turn number 9 here in this layout. Or actually, check that. I'm not even sure that is turn number 9. But I do believe it is. My apologies to those of you who are like, man, what an idiot he is. Yeah, I'm sorry. So through the next to last corner, first pace car, the Mustang, getting ready to duck off of the speedway. And it will be the Cadillac CTS's first up on the grid, led by Frederick Falstad and Pavel Binkowski. Through the final turn, pace car gets ready to make that hard right-hand turn. He'll do so. Waiting on the green flag, and there it is from Frederick Falstad. He will be the first one down into turn number 1. Daytona prototype start forthcoming here in just a minute. They race over into turn number 1. Everybody gets through turn 1 cleanly in the Cadillacs. Daytona prototypes coming up next for their start. They now working off the second or third to last quarter. Again, about a half a lap behind the Cadillac CTSs as they work down the, I guess it's not quite the backstretch, but the second longest straightaway here whenever it's complete at Watkins Glen. Through the final, next to last quarter, final left-hander. And now the right-hander over in the final corner. They'll come around off of the final turn to see the green flag. Brunellas and Anthony Roselli leading the DP field down. But they work off the final corner. Green flag is out for that group, and they now racing into turn number 1. Looks like for the most part a relatively smooth start for the Daytona prototypes as they work into turn number 1. First lap of, probably about 70 or 80 here this afternoon. Everybody through turn 1 clean, John.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Up front, the Cadillac CTS as they work through the big trouble. Looks like Rory King goes around in the CTS back over in the boot section. He is off of the speedway in the sand trap. He gets it righted. Tough break for Rory King. Good news for him, however, he is going to be able to at least try to make that up. Looks like he just kind of got in that corner a little bit hot. Maybe wheel hopped a little bit. Didn't look like there was any sort of contact, excuse me. A couple other cars got jammed up in it as well, but for the most part, no harm, no foul, and it does not bring out a full course caution, John.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm watching the Cadillacs up front right now, and Mark's leading the way. In the number 30 Cadillac, Mark Menzies.
So as the field continues to circulate here, the GT field spread out just a little bit. Rory King, pretty much can tell that. 3 or 4 other cars who were involved in that accident came to pit road the last time by. As the DPs now working off the final corner down the front straightaway to complete their very first lap. And the GTs almost halfway through the boot section, so it's going to be a little while until the Daytona prototypes do catch up with the GTs as they still working through the boot at the moment. Frederick Falstad, the leader, and certainly doing a pretty fine job. He's extended that lead out to about, almost a second over Nick Versteege, Pavel Binkowski, Ricardo Machuca, and Joe Jr., the top 5. And that's right where that incident happened over there in the boot. The top 4 pretty much have separated themselves from the rest of the field by about 5 to 6 seconds from Machuca back to Joe Jr. And it looks at this point, for the most part, John, it is a 4-car battle here in the early going in GT for the class win.
Oh, we're having a big pileup back here coming out of the boot.
So we had a report, a couple of cars off course, but it was an errant report. As Paulo Valente right now looking at that battle, you see him in one of the DP cars. They get all of that sorted out now as they work through the final quarter, back to complete lap number 2 in the Daytona prototype class. Already some of the GT cars have gone, well, I would say they've been overtaken. I think they're actually on pit lane. James Cullen among those cars. So 12 of the GT cars still out front of the DPs by about 20 seconds or so. We can anticipate that changing here in about the next, 5, 6, 7 laps or so as the prototypes continue to make up ground. Frederick Falstad still the overall leader in GT, and for that matter, the entire field. Renato Danellis right now, the leader in Daytona prototype in his number 26 machine, and he is about 20 seconds from the back of Rory King, who was involved in that spin, as King now starts to try to track down David Mata, Alice Simonek, and Ken Leach. Those are the next 3 targets on his hit list as the DPs work through the boot. GT cars heading back towards start-finish. Ricardo Machuca right now had a little bit of an issue just a corner or two ago. He was chasing down Pavel Binkowski, and I think quite go as planned. Our spotter Chuck Johnson had a big eye on that. Also right now, Joe Jr. He is under fire from Omar Soto. They work through the S's over in turn number 2. Jr. has that spot. You see him slide out wide just a little bit. Soto right there. Oh, and they almost flipped the Armco. It's almost amazing to me so much, John, that these guys can keep this kind of speed, even though we're only 4 or 5 laps into the race, but almost flipping the Armco. I guess that's what it takes to be fast in one of these GT cars around Watkins Glen.
Yeah, but you do that too many times, it's a lot of averages. It's going to catch up to you.
So continue to watch this battle, 5th and 6th, Joe Jr., Omar Soto. Right behind him, you might see that car peeking into your screen. That is Harry Dahlberg right now. He is being scored in 7th. A couple other cars behind him as well you might see as they work down to this section of the boot, including Roderick Croonen, Ken Leach, and Alice Simonek. They all within a couple of seconds, as is David Mata. And I think Junior right now holding up Omar Soto. Just a look, you see Soto peeking there as they crest the hill. But Junior got to run up the hill through this right-hander, the next to last right-hander on the course. He'll slide wide just a little bit. And it's almost a game of give and take, John. You see Junior gain a little bit of ground and lose a little bit of ground. Gain a little bit, lose it. Same thing with Omar Soto. As now Soto back within 2 car lengths of the Junior machine, as DP now already catching the back of the GT field. So it's the DPs now catching Rory King, who was involved in that spin, that off-course incident just a little bit ago. You'll see them now begin to work by Rory King and that black and green machine. First couple of DPs get by. Renato Danellis, Bruno DeCarmo, they both work by. Here comes the rest of the DP field, including Anthony Roselli, Daniel Sinka, Alexei Usi, Jacola coming by as well. So DP now starting to slice and dice their way through the field. And they made up a ton of time on Rory King that lap. In fact, right now, the first DP, about 3 laps back from that battle we were watching just a minute or 2 ago. And that was the battle for 5th, as now even more GT cars in danger of being overtaken by the Daytona prototypes, Joe.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Tony. I'm still having some technical difficulties here, but I'm going to try and get back into the room.
So we keep an eye on the Daytona prototypes, back up to that battle for 5th in class, and at the moment 5th overall, although it may not be 5th overall for very long, as here come some of those Daytona prototypes catching up to Joe Jr. and Omar Soto, Renato Danellis, right there on their back bumper. This battle has tightened up just a little bit, and it's almost curious to see if these Daytona prototypes might give one of these drivers an advantage in the GT class to see if they can make this pass or stretch it out. Here goes Danellis right now. He'll get by. Number 7 machinist Soto, Joe Jr. next in line. He'll get by him here on the front straightaway. It looks like most of the DPs can get by these GT cars without any sort of major issue. And it's not going to open the door for either one of them to have any sort of major advantage. Frederick Falstad, still the GT leader. An overall leader, for that matter, over Nick Prestige, Pavel Binkowski. Those three drivers all within a second at the front of the field at the Daytona Prototypes, within about 8 seconds or so of your leaders as they work down the back straightaway, John.
Yeah, I hope people have taken it to heart to be careful and try and run the whole race without getting too crazy in the beginning.
So far, everything has been clean and green as we are nearly 15 minutes into this 2-hour contest. Again, Frederick Falstad, the current overall NGT leader, although the overall title will only last for probably a few more laps here as the prototypes beginning to catch up very, very quickly. Renato Janellis, the 26 machine, you see him there on the screen as well. He is the Daytona prototype leader, followed closely by Bruno DeCarmo and Anthony Roselli. You see all three of those cars, in fact, the whole gaggle of them right there behind GT. And in fact, now as they work up the hill, out of the boot, onto what would be the long stretch between turns 10 and or 9 and 10 for NASCAR. But I believe that actually is still turn 9 here in the boot. Nonetheless, Daytona prototype right there with them. And it looks like that Renato Janellis getting ready to take over the overall lead. We should expect him to go to the front of the field here in just a moment. But it's kind of noteworthy to really think about it. It took the prototypes, what, 6-7 laps, John, to catch the GT leaders, which considering we started about 45 seconds behind them, really the GT guys are wheeling it right now as Janellis takes the overall lead.
The Cadillacs here are much faster than when we had the Mustangs running with the Rileys in that series. So yeah, they can hold their own pretty good, and it's pretty amazing that it took that long for the Rileys to catch them.
And here comes a pass for the lead. Bruno DeCarmo looks to the inside of Renato Janellis over in the carousel. Nothing there. He has to tuck back in line. Now he works down the hill towards the boot on the brakes into this left-hander, very tricky left-hander for that matter, all the way on the rumble strips and then back out using every inch of racetrack to get it slowed back down for this. The right-hander that goes up the hill, the toe of the boot, if you will, and up the hill again. You'll press the top of it. Great passing opportunity right here. Janellis going to have to be cognizant of the fact that DeCarmo right there, but I don't think he's anywhere close as they go through the heel of the boot. That's the next to last right-hander on the course. Of course, turn 11 being the final right-hander. They work through turn 9. Again, top of the hill. A little bit of an off-camber corner as you work down to turn number 10. And turn 10, it's almost a really good passing opportunity, John, but you don't have enough time to get out of turn 9 before you have to do this left-right switchback type deal to get to the front straightaway. So prototypes now back to the front of the field. Janellis, Bruno DeCarmo, Anthony Roselli, Daniel Sinka, and Alexi Usi Jacola, the overall and DP top 5. GT right now, Frederick Falstad, Nick Prestige, Pavel Binkowski, Ricardo Machuca, and Omar Soto, the top 5 in GT, as the prototypes have pretty much split that field up considerably. Top 2 with GT still right on top of each other. Frederick Falstad and Nick Prestige, as Falstad right now being shown 11 overall in that 17 machine. And we can send our cameras back to that battle between Falstad and Prestige as they are now being overtaken something fierce by a number of Daytona prototypes. And John, if you're the leader in one of these GT cars and all these prototypes are coming at you, how hard is it to not let one of your GT classmates, if you will, come up and get by you rather easily while you're trying to let the prototypes go?
That'll happen. It's kind of dirty pool, but it's just going to happen. And if you're really fast, you shouldn't worry about it. You're going to get that position back. It's a long race.
And in fact, right now you see Falstad, he was under fire just a second ago, and there it comes. Speaking of that, here comes Nick Prestige. Look to the right side, the inside of that right-hander. But the 9 machine can't make it happen. The 17 still going to hold on to the top spot as it worked off that next to last left-hander. And now top 3 in GT, nose to tail. Pavel Binkowski right there as well, as Falstad just about gave it up over in the final couple corners of the boot. as they work off of turn number 11 now. Volstad back down the front straightaway. It's going to be a prime opportunity for the 9 machine and Prestige to maybe try to make a pass here, but it looks like he does not have a run. The prototype's starting to work by these cars. So as you keep an eye on this battle in GT, back up front, the 5 car, Anthony Roselli, currently 3rd in the DP standings. In fact, top 5 or so in DP, all gathered together as they work through the toe right now. Over in the boot section, you see them circulating through that right-hander. Roselli made a bid on Camo for that 2nd spot just a minute or 2 ago. Couldn't quite get the pass done. And now here goes Sinka. He peeked at the inside of Roselli, nothing there. He'll fall back in line as they work through the heel, back up the hill to the left-hander, leading back onto the main course. Renato Dornelis has led every lap in DP. And it looks like it's going to take it looks like trouble the GT field, John.
Yeah, I'm still having technical difficulties here.
And it looks like actually it was one of the DP cars back in the middle of the GT group, Rafael Sankey, and that was over in coming right into the boot. We'll call it the instep of the boot, if you will. And you see the replay there. He got out from under him, and that actually, I think that was Prestige that caught a piece of him. The 2nd place driver in GT with damage on his Cadillac here early in this one. 20 minutes into a 2-hour race. An unfortunate victim of circumstances, but Nick Prestige, certainly a major change of events. He was in 2nd. Pavel Binkowski got around him, and Prestige in trouble with damage on the 9 machine. John, how hard is it going to be to try to circulate Watkins Glen until that next pit stop with what appears to be substantial damage to the Prestige machine?
It's a nightmare. I would guess his race is over, and he's probably not even going to go for points. We'll see.
So, still watching the GT battle at the moment. Frederick Volstad now starting to come up, or what seems to be challenged by Pavel Binkowski. Binkowski, new 2nd place driver in GT. In fact, that gap that was a few seconds, now down to within about a 1.5 seconds, less than that. It's about 5 car lengths as they work through the hill of the boot. Pavel Binkowski on a charge here at this juncture as we work lap number 10, 20 minutes. Into the 120 Minutes of Thunder here at Watkins Glen, live on PSR TV. My name is Tony Stevens, joined alongside by John Hill. And of course, as always, Ian Bushing and Chuck Johnson, the PSR TV booth, making the magic happen, telling us in our ears wherever they happen to be and what's going on the Speedway. 20 minutes into this one, Renato Dornelis is the leader in Daytona Prototype, and overall, Frederick Volstad still atop the GT scoring pylon. We'll be right back.
I'd like to thank some of the great sponsors that are on board here, starting with PSR TV and iRacing.com. Without iRacing, none of this would have happened. Nvidia is giving up a GTX 670 video card. Grandstand's on board, and they're putting up a wheel stand. GT Omega Racing is putting up their Pro Simulator. Derek Speare Designs has put up a Track Boss button box. And RSeat has a triple or single monitor stand. It's going to be the choice of the winner.
Very cool. In addition to that, we also have the Logitech G27 compliments of iRacing. Tamiya USA is going to be putting up, I'm not sure, an RC or a model, but one or the other. Thrustmaster is giving up a TH8RS shifter. We've got the Marcos Ambrose die-cast iRacing NASCAR, and this cool camouflage hat.
iRacing hat.
Yeah, that's very unique. I haven't seen those anywhere.
Yep.
And then every winner and every split is going to get an Inside Sim Racing sticker.
Welcome back here to Watkins Glen International. Still about 24 minutes into this 120-minute race. Just under, what is that, 1/6 distance in the 120-minute event here at Watkins Glen. Dornelis still the leader. Overall, and in Daytona prototype, Bruno DeCarmo second. He has not relinquished anything off of Dornelis' back bumper. He's officially at the line last time, just 0.3 of a second off the top spot, but you got to know, Renato Dornelis, he's got the top 5 all right there in his the next 4 in the top 5. Let's put it that way, right there in his rear view mirror. And now there went DeCarmo. He thought about it. He looked to the outside, nothing there. Bruno DeCarmo getting very raced all over Renato Dornelis right now, and Anthony Roselli right there as well in that red and white pinstripe machine. And John, these guys have got to be getting a little bit racy now. They've cleared the GT cars. They know what they have for each other. When do you make your move, and how much of this is cat and mouse? How much of this is playing possum? So you let the other guy burn his stuff up.
You might be onto something there. I know Renato and Anthony are both from Brazil, and they probably have a little friendly rivalry going with them.
Of course, each one of them at the top of the class. And overall, here he goes for the lead. DeCarmo looks to the inside. Again, nothing there. Dornelis slams the door in his face at Daniel Cinca right there as well. Check that. I thought that was Roselli, but it is Daniel Cinca in the 25 machine right there in third. Roselli is in the black car a little bit further back and already now beginning to lap some of the slower GT machines. First one they're coming up on now. Looks like that is going to be... I can't even catch a number on that car as they go by him. Nonetheless, they get by him without any sort of incident. And still, Dornelis up front. And it's just amazing to me. DeCarmo keeps peaking. Keeps peaking. Daniel Cinca doing the same thing. There he goes. Helter braking. Nearly loses control. What a save by Daniel Cinca. And John, it is so hard to control these cars as it is. Much less when you try a dive bomb and that thing gets massive reel off like we just saw.
This is just really great racing. For them to be this tight, running this hard, this early into it is just amazing. And now they're coming up on a slower cat. This is going to be great.
So Dornelis still leading. That battle in GT is still a good one as well. Frederick Folstad holding off Pavel Binkowski. Nothing has changed yet. That is a 2-car battle for the GT class lead. Behind them, Nick Versteege is still in third in class. Ricardo Machuca fourth, and Omar Soto currently fifth in the GT standings as they are about, a minute to a minute 15 seconds behind this lead battle in Daytona prototype. And again, Dornelis still pacing this field here at Watkins Glen, and DeCarmo trying to find a way around him. And John, you see more caddies up in the distance as these guys are getting ready to overtake here in just a few corners. As a driver, if you're in second, do you try to sit here and think about what you could do to maybe put the guy in front of you in a bad spot so you can get by him in some of this lap traffic?
Oh yeah, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for just the right thing at the right time. But you're also trying to make sure you're not going to make some major blunder, because when you're passing the slower cars, that's when the big problems happen.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys are almost like rolling chicanes, and if you misjudge it, it could be a problem and certainly can throw you off of your rhythm. As now you see him begin to work by another one of those the GT cars. That looks like the number 32 machine, Chad Holmes, going another lap down. I think he was involved in that early incident with Rory King and had to come to pit road. He'll go another lap down. Speaking of going laps down, falling out, looks like Alexei Usi-Jakola just had an off-track incident, and it looks like he will be scored off of the speedway and out of the race as he has fallen through the running order. Otherwise, a relatively clean race so far as we approach 1/4 distance, nearly 30 minutes into this one. A couple other cars out of the event, it looks like, include Dirk Reinhardt in the GT, the Cadillac, Evgeny Dontsov, Marcus Stohr, Rafael Sanke after his major off there in the instep of the boot, and Evandro Fracalosi currently being shown 8 laps in rears as your leaders working lap number 15. 14 laps are complete. Gonna go back to the GT battle for the top spot, and these two are just about as close as they have been all race long. Frederick Folstad, Pavel Binkowski, right on each other's bumpers, neither one giving an inch, and in the meantime, they have pulled out nearly 3, almost 4 seconds on Nick Versteege, who currently is 3rd in class in GT, as these two working through the final corner on the speedway to complete lap number 14 for them. And it just amazes me, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, John, these guys able to just mimic each other, corner for corner, tit for tat, everywhere on the speedway. I mean, yeah, you might be better on one right-hander than the guy behind you, or vice versa. But overall, these guys still on each other's bumper, neither one having yet made a mistake.
Yeah, sorry to hear that about Alexei, though. He was the highest placed pro as far as qualifying goes, and hope he can get back into it. But with the Cadillacs, yeah, this is just turning out to be a great, great event. I can see something like this for next season. What do you think, Darren?
So still watching that. Joe, big slip there for Pavel Binkowski, just about falls the farm as the right rear nearly slipped off the rumble strips. It's kind of funny. As soon as we put our PSR TV cameras on, these guys are nose to tail, just about trading paint. Next thing you know, okay, we're going to separate about 3 car lengths and just kind of ride for the time being. But still, fantastic battle for the class lead, as they last time they separated by mere tenths of a second. Nick Versteege, you get about 4 seconds back. Ricardo Machuca, a couple seconds arrears of him. And Joe Jr., Omar Sado, and Taro Dahlberg. Those are the only 7 cars in GT last time by that were scored on the lead lap. Joe Jr. and others in danger, looks like, of going a lap down this time around. And in fact, yeah, here comes Dornelis right now. And Dornelis has stretched it out. As we were watching that battle for GT, Daniel Sinka has gotten by Bruno De Carmo. I think maybe even that was a slip. I'll have to go back and look and see exactly what happened to the Carmo, but he was in second, now 2.5 seconds off the lead, John.
I've got some interesting information on Dornelis or Dorncelis. How do you pronounce it? Anyway, he just started in iRacing this year, and he's from a family of real racers, and he's got this incredible, some stats. 63% of all of his laps have been in position 1 in road racing. 37 wins out of 59 starts. Right up there with the best of them.
Yeah, certainly a good. And in fact, he just lost the lead. In fact, that you were talking about him, Daniel Simka gets by him. Or nope, check that. That wasn't him. That was one of the Cadillacs painted very similarly. I saw the corner of my eye. Simka still is in second, as Dornelis continues to lead this event overall and the DP class. Talked about Bruno De Carmo a minute ago. Sinka got by him, and then looks like he was kind of faded. So I'm going to let you guys go up and race for about as hard as you can race. I'm just going to hang back here and chill for a little while, as Dornelis began to stretch it out, but now considering some more lap traffic, starting to see Sinka right back up into your rear view.
Dornelis is starting to make a real difference here now, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly Dornelis doing a great job up front, but Daniel Sinka is the guy that I've been looking at. He has worked his way through this DP field and having a shot to lead this race here just past the 1/4 mark, John.
Yep, it's looking real good right now.
Begin to kind of string out just a little bit. nonetheless, Dornelis and Daniel Sinka, the top two in Daytona Prototype. And in fact, Sinka thought about making a move there at the end of the back straightaway. Couldn't quite get the job done. Anthony Roselli being scored in third. Bruno DeCarmo is fourth, and Doug Learlin. Haven't talked about him all night long. He is in fifth in DP, just 3.5 seconds off the top spot. Meanwhile, back in GT, they just worked around the Cadillac leaders, and we'll move right back to them. Frederick Falstad still out front of Pavel Binkowski. Binkowski in that yellow machine, you see, right on the back bumper of Falstad. Nick Prestige is third in class, followed by Ricardo Machuca and Omar Soto, the top 5 in GT at the moment. And still, side-by-side racing here on the speedway. You see them getting all that settled out as they work around the racetrack. And you know, it's really amazing to me as you go and you watch a lot of these guys work through traffic and try to maintain their class competition, the class battles. That even with the cars being as far off the pace as they are, guys are able to really calculate what they're doing, maintain all that speed, and if they're racing the guy behind them side by side, it doesn't faze them hardly to come up on any of that traffic, John. They're right there, and it's almost as if traffic wasn't there most of the time.
Yeah, except traffic really is there, so you got to think about this. Yeah, they're not invisible cars.
Here on the front straightaway, Alice Simonek, 23 machine in the GT class, being bypassed in one of the Daytona prototypes. Simonek in that black and blue number 23 machine going way over. A lot of DPs working around the Cadillacs here on the racetrack and approaching the 40-minute mark, just past 35 minutes now, and getting pretty close. If you're going to divide this 120-minute race up into 3 segments, if you're one of the Cadillacs, John, it's almost time for the CTSs to make a visit to pit road. Yeah, John, you're exactly right on that, of course. And we were watching the 12 machine there in the process. Enzo Benito just made up a spot or two. You see the replay there on your screen. Benito went from 10th up to 9th. And just now as well, caught right up to João Pinot as he is trying to get another spot to move up to 8th. Just right now, one of the best battles in the Speedway, aside from those class leads, as they work down the back straightaway toward turn number 5. Speeds in excess of 180 miles an hour coming into this corner. You jump on the binders, get it low down. Even though it's banked, it's almost off camber. Because you're going downhill and then about 120 miles an hour back on the throttle into the instep of the boot. That's nearly 140, 150 mile an hour entrance to that corner. And again, you'll slow down back on the gas. Very technical racetrack here at Watkins Glen. Although it's a very simple layout, John. It's a very, very technical racetrack. All the elevation changes, all the different arcs in the corners, the radiuses. You've really got to know what you're doing with a road racing car to be successful here.
This track has it all. This is a track that a lot of people test at because it has a little bit of every kind of track around, and if you can get it right for Watkins, it'll handle a lot of other tracks.
We continue to watch Benito here in that 12 machine. He's still trying to get by João Pinot. And that number 14 as they work off the final corner. Nearly Pinot catching the tires there off of turn number 11. Didn't quite do it. But this battle right now happening about 13 to 14 seconds behind your leader, Renato Dornelis. He is still your overall leader. Daniel Sinka, second. Anthony Roselli, third. Bruno DeCarmo, fourth. And Doug Learley is in 5th. GT overall standings, Frederick Falstad is the leader, followed by Pavel Binkowski as well, still in second. Nick Versteege, Ricardo Machuca, and Omar Soto, the top 5, and Binkowski losing a little bit of ground, looks like due to traffic, as he was right there on the back bumper of your leader Falstad. And right now, not nearly on his back bumper. That's about a 10 or 15 car length differential. DP is now working by, and again, just goes to show you how much that even when you're not passing traffic, John, if you are the traffic being passed, you got to hit your marks right, or you can lose a lot of track position.
Losing track position is something I'm very good at, like losing races too.
Trouble for one DP over the toe of the boot. That is the Pierre Ubizu machine, the 19 car. He was off track over in the toe of the boot. Just now getting back up to speed. Didn't see any contact from anybody. Nonetheless, that car is slowing and being bypassed by a number of other competitors right now. It looks like he is limping back to pit lane. Tough break for Pierre Ubizu. He was being scored well. He's off the racetrack again on the grass, working up the hill out of the boot. So something certainly around the 19 machine. The front end all caved in on the Ubizu machine. See if we can get a replay on exactly what happened. But it looks like the 19 machine has made a significant impact somewhere down in the boot. And it looks like it was that wheel hop phenomenon maybe that we talked about a little bit earlier. Something that he just couldn't get quite through the toe of the boot, John. And just absolutely overshot the corner, actually, head on into the arm coat.
Well, then I guess that's it for him. I see the ambulance is warming up.
So he has made his way back to pit road. Meanwhile, Falstad, still the leader in GT, Pavel Binkowski, as we said, on his bumper a few laps ago. Now, not so much. About 10 car lengths or so, the differential between this pairing as they work through the carousel. A couple of different lines starting to make themselves evident. Falstad got to be getting close to the end of his fuel run. We're already past 41 minutes. And from what everybody's been telling us, John, the CTSs we can expect to make about a 2-stop race out of this. The prototypes, however, plan to make this 2 halves. 1 stop somewhere about halfway. Should expect all of the GT cars into pit lane very shortly.
I'm guessing that everybody here has got experience entering pit lane. They know about their pit limiters. They know not to exceed the pit limit. So I'm not expecting any real big mistakes entering the pits, and so everything should come out just about right.
So we'll see if he might short pits or if they're stretching out for that short run at the end, or exactly how that pit strategy will end up working out. Note to those of you Alexei Usa-Jakola fans, we talked about him a little bit earlier. He was up in the top 5 or so of BP. Electrical issues, connection issues for Alexei, so tough break for him. Looks like he'll be scored 38 overall. 2 cars from the back of the overall, or from the DP field. Tough break for Alexei. He was certainly looking forward to this one. One of the, as we mentioned earlier, top qualified pro driver in the Daytona prototypes here for the 120 Minutes of Thunder at Watkins Glen. Battle for third up in the the DP ranks right now. I'll get it straight here in a second. Bruno DeCarmo. He is all under fire. We've had a lead change up front as well. Daniel Sinka just got by Renato Dornelis as we turn the cameras there. Saw a red car out front. Dornelis no longer the leader for the first time today. Daniel Sinka up front. Car 25 to the point here at the 43-minute mark of this one. Passed him going down the back straightaway. He flirted and flirted and flirted. And finally, Sinka got him going into turn number 5. And now he's beginning to walk away from Renato Dornelis down the back straightaway. Already about a 5 or 6 car length gap as Sinka continuing. excuse me, but Sinka continues to slice and dice his way up through the field. I apologize, folks. I just swallowed a bug here in the broadcast booth. A couple of those flying around here with the hot days on the East Coast. And I'll give you one tip. It's not the way you want to get your protein by any means, John.
That's funny. We could use a laugh at this point.
Meanwhile, just behind the DP group, that's the battle for position number 3. We'll keep our eyes on it here for just a few minutes before we take another break. Try to wait out pit stops for the GT cars. Bruno De Carmo currently in third in that black, white, and blue machine. And he is being chased by Anthony Roselli, the black-red car, as well as Doug Learley. And Doug Learley, I think, is somebody you've got to look at here, John. I've consistently been looking at his lap times. He's gone from 5 seconds back to 3 seconds back. Right now, about 2.5 seconds back. Well, he was 2.5 until he got caught up in this battle. Now it's back to 3. But he has been consistently gaining on the top 2 this entire race. Never mind the fact he didn't start exactly up there. He started 6th or so on the DP grid. However, working through that traffic certainly kind of was a little bit of an issue. Fell back, now beginning to make it all up. And he might be one of the dark horse picks for the overall and the DP win here in this one if he can continue that pace.
Yeah, starting up front never guarantees a first place finish, and I was looking back for the all the way up to the first 20 that can end this, can win this in the DP class. It really matters on luck, and it really matters on timing and your skill. But yes, you don't have to be P1 to win this thing at all, and chances are you're not going to win at P1.
Couple of those further back in the field for the Cadillac CTSs. They have been to pit road. Your leader, Frederick Volstad, has not. However, looks like second place now. Nick Versteege has been in, as well as Pavel Binkowski. Or at least Binkowski has had some sort of issues. Look at the scoring monitor. He is not up in second where he was a little bit ago. In fact, not having problems even finding him anywhere on the racetrack. And there he is, now working out of the boot. Top of that hill being bypassed from one of the DP cars. So it looks like that Binkowski has in fact already made his visit to pit road. We anticipate Frederick Volstad on the pit lane here very, very shortly. He will be giving up the GT lead if he does in fact come to pit road. And John, we're 46 minutes into this, so almost, what is that, about, I can't do the math right now, about third distance, we'll pass the third distance into this one. What does it do for your strategy if you're able to stretch it the extra lap, the extra 2 minutes? I mean, do you want to use that in the middle of the race? Do you want to use it at the end of the race? Where do you want to have that short stint to make up the most time, assuming you can abuse your tires the most then?
Well, here's the strategy. I try and stretch it whenever possible because you never know what's going to happen. Let's say in the next stint you come across slower traffic and it's really holding you up and you're trying to pass and you can't pass. If you've got that extra bit of fuel, you can dive into the pits a little early and get the gas when you need it. Or the later you can go, that means when you go in and refill, you can put in less fuel. And when you get back on the track, your tires are going to be fresher. So in the long run, anytime I get the chance, I stretch it, if at all possible.
Right now, the GT class fairly spread out. It's a pretty substantial gap from Frederick Volstad back to Nick Versteege now that Binkowski has made a visit to pit road. And again, that might be some strategy on Binkowski's part. Maybe thinking he can make cleaner laps if he's not behind Frederick Volstad, you think, John?
Yeah, that's what I think he's thinking, and that's what I would do too.
So while we wait on pit stops from some more of your GT leaders and Daytona prototypes coming up here in about the next 12 to 15 minutes or so, we'll take another quick break here on PSR TV. Don't go away. You're watching 120 Minutes of Thunder live at Watkins Glen International.
I'd like to thank some of the great sponsors that are on board here, starting with PSR TV and iRacing.com. Without iRacing, none of this would have happened. Nvidia is giving up a GTX 670 video card. Grandstand's on board, and they're putting up a wheel stand. GT Omega Racing is putting up their Pro Simulator. Derek Speare Designs has put up a Track Boss button box. And RSeat has a triple or single monitor stand. It's going to be the choice of the winner.
Very cool. In addition to that, we also have the Logitech G27 compliments of iRacing. Tamiya USA is going to be putting up, I'm not sure, an RC or a model, but one or the other. Thrustmaster is giving up a TH8RS shifter. We've got the Marcos Ambrose die-cast iRacing NASCAR, and this cool camouflage hat.
iRacing hat.
Yeah, that's very unique. I haven't seen those anywhere.
Yep.
And then every winner and every split is going to get an Inside Sim Racing sticker.
Back from break, and your GT class leader, Frederick Folstad, on pit road, as are a bunch of his buddies right behind him. 5 more GT cars on pit road, anticipating 4 tires, a full tank of race fuel. Folstad down and away, and looking where the machine of Binkowski is, and right there he is, Binkowski off turn 1 on the bumper of Folstad. So nothing ventured, nothing gained, for that matter, nothing lost for either one of these drivers. If anything, Binkowski has gained about 5-6 car lengths on Folstad from what he had earlier. But considering what he lost in traffic, I think that was a very wise move, John. He's made up all that gap. Now he's back right in touch with Folstad for the class lead. Absolutely, John. And still, now you see Folstad beginning to stretch it out just a little bit over Binkowski in that yellow machine. So whatever Folstad did on that pit stop, if he made any sort of air pressure adjustments, some sort of something, seems to be paying off. That, or maybe Binkowski on those older tires can't quite keep up with lap speed. He was out there for 3 or 4 laps. For Folstad now, brand new stickers on his Cadillac CTS as he continues to slowly walk away from second place. Pavel Binkowski, Nick Versteeg is third, and then Ricardo Machuca still in fourth, and Dirk Reinhardt back there as well. He actually not on the lead lap, our apologies, but he is in one of the Cadillacs. Ken Leach also not on the leader lap in the GT class. He is a little bit further back in the running order, being shown 36th overall. So a couple of lap cars in between your GT leaders and the rest of the running field. Some more of those cars on pit road here at the very moment. Back up front, overall, Daniel Sinka still continues to lead as they work to the top of the hill on the bottom of the boot. To the, what is that, the insole or the sole or whatever you want to call it. Top 4 though, DP all nose to tail as they work now up the hill past the heel. That's a tongue twister if I ever heard one, to say the least. But man, what a great drive of these guys. Into the run, nearly 60 minutes into this stint, and the top 4 DP cars are right nose to tail, John. That says something about competition here. These guys are that closely matched.
Oh, this is so tight. This is so great. And they're coming up on another Cadillac.
Yet they just passed one. They got another one about a couple seconds ahead of them. They'll have to go by here in just a little bit as well. But Sinka right now doing the best job in traffic, I think, compared to those behind him. Although, judging by his line, starting to lose a little bit of grip on that DP. However, if you're going to lose it, this is the time to lose it. Near the end of the run, maybe you'd like to stretch it a little bit more. But certainly, if you're going to lose it, at the end is the best, not prematurely, as you saw Bruno De Carmo try. Think about it. Peeking out of line, nothing yet. He'll tuck back in line behind Renato Dornelis. And again, these guys will work down through the boot section one more time, working lap number 30 of, probably about 70 or so here today. These these cars circulating about a minute and a half, a little over a minute and a half per lap. So we'll play the guessing game and figure it'll be about a 70-lap race for the Daytona prototypes here this afternoon. Working through the top of the boot one more time. And we've had a lead change in GT. Roderick Cronin stayed out, and he now on pit road, so Falstad will go back by him and claim the lead. But Roderick Cronin getting credit for leading one lap here in the GT class, as he stayed out past everybody else. So kudos to Roderick. He gets a call here on PSR TV. Certainly good job for him, and that might be some piece of strategy he can work into his race just a little bit later. Meanwhile, DP's Cinca now stretching it out one more time. Here comes DeCarmo to the inside. Dornelis, nothing there. Dornelis slams the door one more time. And John, that's kind of been a theme tonight. Anybody to get by Renato Dornelis has to think about it, has to time it. They have to practice it 4 or 5 times before they actually make the move. Dornelis has been very good under braking. Hardly anybody, with the exception of Daniel Cinca, has been able to get by him in a major braking and passing zone.
Simca's really starting to pull away a little bit now.
That he certainly is, John. And I'm not quite sure whether he just hit the button and said, you know what, I'm just going to decide to go here, or if Dornelis is just falling off that much, and he's holding up DeCarmo and Roselli, but again, doing a fantastic job of it. They keep peeking out of line. They keep peeking out of line, wanting to go by him, but Dornelis able to beat him into the braking zone. Just that much better under braking, at least apparently at this point, than Bruno DeCarmo and Anthony Roselli. And for that matter, Doug Lierle and Jim Shedlick, they have fallen off of this battle. We were talking about Lierle just a little bit ago. And we'll go back to that battle as well. Those two now working down the front straight with Shedlick in the 6th, Lierle in the 4. Lierle is 5th, and 6th overall is the 6th car of Shedlick. Shedlick using a little more racetrack there off of turn number 1. Great battle here to break into the top 5 in DP as they work up the hill through the S's, John.
Yeah, I'm going all over the track right now, seeing what's going on. Trying to catch up to this.
This battle, go by one of the Cadillac CTSs, and again, Lierle, who, again, worked his way up from 6th starting spot, right in touch with the leaders. And I wonder if maybe he burned off what was left on those tires in the process, as he now about 5 seconds in arrears from your top runners, as Cinca has just absolutely put the afterburners on. He said, I am gone. See you, boys. He is stretching it out over the rest of the DP field. But surprisingly, Lierle is doing the same thing, but just in reverse, as he is under fire from Jim Shedlick. They work by another one of the DP machines, going a lap down. Up the hill one more time, and Dornelis, DeCarmo, and Roselli still 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in DP. They work through some more of the lap traffic, and that seems to be certainly a break for Renato Dornelis. He gets DeCarmo off of his back bumper, off its gearbox, and he can maybe hit his marks a little bit more. How much do I have to wonder, though, John, does sifting through all this traffic screw up your rhythm if you're somebody like Renato Dornelis, who's just absolutely hitting every mark and keeping everybody behind him? And trouble, turn number 1. Omar Sato in it, big trouble for him, the GT car. And Jim Shedlick, who we were just watching. Joe Jr. also caught a piece of that one as well. And it looks like Ian's going to cue up the replay down in the truck to see exactly what happened over here in turn number 1. That was that battle for 56 we were watching just a minute ago. And it almost looks like the DP, or the GT cars, got into it. And Jim Shedlick, just a victim of circumstances there. One of the cars tried to take a late apex, as that was the 7 machine, it looked like, that kind of dove maybe at the last minute trying to get underneath Omar. Or check that was Joe Jr. He was trying to get under Omar Soto, and they made contact right in front of Jim Shedlick. 3 cars taken out in that one, but we do stay green. No full course caution. Tough break though for Shedlick. Damage on the back of his Riley prototype. He will have to come to pit road. The aerodynamics of that machine affected. The wing all bent down. All kinds of stuff not where it's supposed to be on the Jim Shedlick automobile. Tough break for Shedlick, who is having a stellar run up in the 6th spot. Note for you Enzo Benito fans, we were talking about him just a moment ago. He has officially retired from the race, effective about 30 seconds ago. He is now out of this one. And what we're seeing, I think, at this point, John, is a couple of more cars, the GTs, come to pit road. A lot of guys losing control right now. And surprisingly, you know, there's a lot of the Cadillacs involved who've already been to pit road, but the DPs, as you can imagine, on worn tires, light fuel loads, the handling going away and changing substantially from what it was earlier this race. A few of those guys maybe starting to feel the after effects of worn tires on their machines.
Well, they're getting fatigued too, and you know, when you have an additional class, a multi-class race, you are doing so much more thinking and planning, and you're much more stressed out than your regular race. So it's not surprising that they're starting to mess up here. It just wears you out after a while, you know.
And what makes this so stressful, John? I mean, it's just cars you have to pass, I thought, right?
Well, the stressful part is you're going into a turn and you're saying, should I pass here? Should I do something a little dangerous before the turn, or should I just wait? So sometimes you just make a bad call and you end up giving yourself damage and to the poor guy that you're trying to pass.
Certainly something to keep an eye on now as your overall leader. Big trouble for your leader in the final corner. Daniel Sinka, just like we were talking about, John, has to have all that stress under control. He made contact with one of the Cadillacs head on in the outside arm cone, the tire barrier in the final corner. Tough break for Daniel Sinka. He gets it righted, but certainly not what Daniel Sinka wanted. Damage to the front of his Daytona prototype will hand the lead back over to Renato Dornelis. Bruno DeCarmo second, Anthony Roselli now third, and Sinka being scored way back over 10 seconds in the rear of your leaders. What a huge mistake by your leader, John.
Wow, that's a big game changer. And it's almost, I'm going to have to shut up here because every time I say something like this, something bad happens, and something definitely bad happened to Simca there. He's still running. I don't know if he's going to get the orange ball to come into the pits and get repair work, but he's really not running that much slower. Maybe he's going to be able to come back from this. We'll see.
The good news, though, is you're right inside your fuel window now, your stop window. Maybe you might come a lap too early, but you're able to come down pit road. The downside is you've got all that damage to fix, so that could be a problem. Although analyzing that event, it almost looked like maybe Sitka got a little bit overzealous trying to get by that GT car, and maybe ended up taking himself out of the spot.
Yeah, it's all about keeping your cool, running your race, and not letting anything get to you.
And Sinka apparently looking a little bit more in the rearview mirror there than he was maybe out the front windshield to cause that mistake over in turn number 11. So, recap your running order here just past halfway. Renato Dornelis is your leader. Bruno DeCarmo second. Anthony Roselli third. Doug Learley is fourth. And Daniel Sinka at the moment being scored fifth overall and fifth in DP. Back to the GT cars, the Cadillac CTSs. Frederick Folstad still your leader by a substantial margin now over Pavel Binkowski, Nick Versteege, Ricardo Machuca, and Joe Jr. to watch this battle for DP and the overall lead. Bruno DeCarmo, again, we talked about it a little bit ago, the only weak spot it seems like Renato Dornelis has is right there at the end of the back straightaway, John. That's where everybody has made a pass on him. Okay, one car, Daniel Sinka. But that is where he has shown the most weakness because everybody wants to peek out line at the end of the back straightaway. And really, I can't blame him. You get that huge draft. I mean, you're doing 180 miles an hour going into turn 5, but still, you got to get on the binders, and that's the one place Dornelis has shown any sort of weakness.
It might be that Dornelis set his car up for more downforce and less top speed, and that might be why they're catching him on the back straight all the time.
Good point. Of course, Dornelis up front. Most of this course, not long straightaways, it is very technical corners. And while you get some high speeds, usually you make up for it in the lefties and the righties and all the twists and turns of Watkins Glen International. 36 laps go up on the board, 1 hour, 4 minutes on the clock, on the downslide, or downside, whichever one you prefer. Here are the 120 minutes of thunder at Watkins Glen International. Meanwhile, Paulo Valente on pit road and a couple of other of the DP cars out there coming to the attention of their crews while we anticipate the leaders on pit road momentarily. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about prizes in store for all these drivers, those winning, those having incident-free or least incident races, so on and so forth. Well, we've got a little video montage to show you everything that everyone is racing for in each of the splits here today in the 120 minutes of thunder at Watkins Glen.
I'd like to thank some of the great sponsors that are on board here, starting with PSR TV and iRacing.com. Without iRacing, none of this would have happened. Nvidia is giving up a GTX 670 video card. Grandstand's on board and they're putting up a wheel stand. GT Omega Racing is putting up their Pro Simulator. Derek Speare Designs has put up a Track Boss button box. And RSeat has a triple or single monitor stand. It's going to be the choice of the winner.
Very cool. In addition to that, we also have the Logitech G27 compliments of iRacing. Tamiya USA is going to be putting up, I'm not sure an RC or a model, but one or the other. Thrustmaster is giving up a TH8RS shifter. We've got the Marcos Ambrose die-cast iRacing NASCAR and this cool camouflage hat.
iRacing hat.
Yeah, that's very unique. I haven't seen those anywhere.
Yep.
And then every winner and every split is going to get an Inside Sim Racing sticker.
You are looking at Bruno DeCarmo, and just moments ago, Bruno DeCarmo just about bought the farm, entering turn 5. He got underneath Renato Dornelis, getting into the corner, tried to cut the car down, and it didn't quite work out for it. Smoke, screeching tires, and near disaster for Bruno DeCarmo. He was able to gather it back in and maintain that second place spot just ahead of Anthony Roselli and behind Renato Dornelis. None of your major leaders in DP have come to pit road, with the exception of Daniel Sinka. He has been on pit lane to get some damage repair for tires and fuel. And it looks like Doug Learlin has a problem on the speedway. That is the number 4 Daytona prototype. Not sure if he's out of fuel or what the case is, but Learlin, a major problem in that Nvidia sponsored entry. He is pulling off of the racing line, but still major problems, and it looks like, yep, Learlin stops that. Oh, bad spot. He'll pull off the speedway, so it looks like the race is over. But Doug Learlin, not sure what happened, but certainly a tough break for him. He was up after, up in the top 5 it looked like there, Joe.
Who was that again that just ran out of fuel?
'26 machine under fire once again. Oh, check that. Actually, it's Bruno DeCarmo under fire from Anthony Roselli as they work up from the boot, and kind of like we saw a little bit ago with Sinka starting to pull away. Dornelis beginning to pull away. Roselli right there all over second place. Bruno DeCarmo as he now begins to feel the urge to go late in this stint. You see him swing wide there coming out of the boot over on the straightaway into turn number 10. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see these cars on pit road in a matter of moments. DeCarmo nearly out in the grass off of turn 10 once again. Roselli right there. He'll shoot to the outside. Here comes DeCarmo. DeCarmo on pit road nearly missed pit entrance. He was able to get down to pit road speed and catch the pit entrance before he overshot it, using every available inch of racetrack and saving every possible split second as he works down pit road at a very, very slow rate of speed. Now, to the attention of his crew, Bruno DeCarmo. 4 tires and fuel, the first of your leaders to come on the pit road. John, do we anticipate that he will beat everybody else out after everything cycles out?
Are we seeing a pass for the leader? Oh, this is great.
Yeah, Dornelis certainly did a great job again holding off Anthony Roselli right where we talked about, into turn number 5, the end of the back straightaway. And like you said, John, maybe that downforce configuration not working for him back there in the high speed section of the course. You get here in these corners, man, he is just a rocket ship, pulling away from everybody, and it certainly makes everybody else play from behind, and that might be a little bit more difficult as opposed to playing from in front. Again, Roselli right there all over the gearbox of Renato Dornelis as they work up the hill, the exit of the boot one more time on that left-hander. About a 120-degree corner, very tricky corner, hard to find the apex of that particular corner here at Watkins Glen. Dornelis did a better job that time through the left-hander. Again now through turn number 11. This is a very, very high speed, but yet high downforce section of the racetrack. Dornelis now to pit road. That will leave Anthony Roselli on the speedway. Dornelis slowly working his way down the long pit road. 40-some pit stalls here at Watkins Glen at 45 miles an hour for Renato Dornelis. He's pitted about halfway up pit road after sitting on the pole in the DP class. He is in pit stall number 16. 4 tires and fuel for Renato Dornelis. Very curious to see where the 21 machine comes out. The 21 of DeCarmo, who he was racing with, working through turn 10 right now. Entering turn number 11, John. DeCarmo might be able, that's a big might, to get by Dornelis after this round of pit stops.
Well, I'll tell you, what's really happening is Anthony Roselli is going to run as hard as he can right now. He knows he's going to have to pit, and he's going to want to run as hard as he can. I think it's already been proven that he can run quicker laps. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been right on his tail of the first place guy, and so he's going to run as quick as he can, and he's hoping that when he comes out of the pits, he's going to have that lead, and it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to this.
All right, now, if this pattern continues, Roselli's going to be a very distant third because Bruno DeCarmo right now has about 2 to 2.5 seconds on Renato Dornelis. That one lap. Dornelis lost that much staying out on those old tires, and now he has got to absolutely put the whip to it if he is going to catch Bruno DeCarmo, who is now entering the toe section of the boot. Dornelis just now getting to the toe section of the boot. So certainly what seemed like a very innocent one-lap difference could very well play to the outcome of this race, John. While we wait Anthony Roselli to come to pit road, we're going to recap that battle back in GT for you. Frederick Volstad, well, yeah, he has checked out. He has set sail in that multicolored number 17 Cadillac. He's out way ahead of Pavel Binkowski, Nick Versteeg, Ricardo Machuca, and Joe Jr., same top 5 we had just a little bit ago. Jr. doing a great job recovering after that spin in turn number 1 and still maintain a spot inside the class top 5. And speaking of spins, Taro Dahlberg is 6th in class, and Rory King, who started the race out with a spin early in the first 5 minutes, is currently 7th in class in GT, followed by Roderick Croonan, David Mata, and James Cullen, the top 10 in GT here at the moment. Still keeping an eye on Anthony Roselli, did not pit the last time by. And that gap from Camo to Renato Dornelis officially at 6 seconds. 6 seconds. The difference between them, pretty substantial difference. Roselli now, heavy GT traffic. We'll see if he takes this opportunity to come to pit road. He'll now go into turn number 11 in his number 5 machine. And no, he will not.
Still not going to do it
that time. Roselli still on the racetrack, John. You got to think he's looking back at what happened to the Camo and Dornelis, and he might be further and further behind once all the cycles through.
Maybe, but here's what the advantage that he had. While he wasn't running as hard into the turns because he was running in second, and he probably was conserving fuel and conserving tires, and now it's paying off for him.
Of course, conserving, and they're still wearing, and it looks like the differential between stickers and old tires is pretty substantial. At least if the Camo and Dornelis have anything to say about it. The question is, will that shorter stint make up for what he's going to lose here at the end of his first one? Big trouble!
Time.
Anthony Roselli in trouble in the boot section. We talked about him getting in the traffic, trying to end up not losing time. One of the cars wrecked in front of him. He made substantial contact, as did one of the GT cars. Anthony Roselli has come to impact a different DT car, and it looks like he will have to come to pit road this time. That is the second leader we have seen get taken out of the lead, either by his own doing or a mistake of somebody else. Such a tough break for Roselli. He continues to circulate, but he most definitely going to be coming down pit road. He'll work into turn number 11, and Roselli, yes, he will now come to pit road. Heated, hot, on the binders hard. Roselli, 45 miles an hour, comes to the attention of his crew, John.
Oh, this has just been his nightmare come to life. There's no other way around it. You work so hard, you practice forever, you get great lap times, and it comes down to just one little mistake. I really feel for the guy.
Oh, and Roselli overshot his stall. He's look at it. That is how rattled he is. Has to back halfway up pit road. So Anthony Roselli out of this one. In fact, there he is. He retires from this event. Roselli is done. Anthony Roselli has retired from the 120 minutes of thunder at Watkins Glen. Man, in the blink of an eye, he could go from bad to worse to just absolutely nightmarish. And it has done just that for Anthony Roselli. So Bruno De Carmo, the 21 machine, now will be shown as your race leader and the DP class leader. Renato Dornelis second, Jim Shedlick third, Daniel Sinka fourth, and João Pinho in the 5th spot. Had our eyes a minute or two ago back on the battle for second, third, and fourth in GT. Pavel Binkowski in second, Nick Versteege in third. All that now has figured itself out. Speaking of battles, Jim Shedlick battling with Daniel Sinka, former race leader. That is overall 4th and 5th. Sinka had 5th. He just overtook Shedlick for that 4th spot as they work through the boot, John.
Yeah, I'm watching Simca right now. And while these guys are not running the pace they used to run, they were running earlier, that's for sure.
Certainly they are, and of course all it takes is one full course yellow if something crazy were to happen. Although I don't think they turned on the full course yellows here in this one. It's going to make it very, very hard for Shedlick and Sinka to make up that 40-second gap that they have to Bruno De Carmo. Or actually, check that. It's a little bit less than that now as they work cross-start-finish. That was to your former leader, Roselli. The gap now officially as they cross-start-finish at 17 seconds. It's still going to be hard to make up 17 seconds in about 40 minutes. You need to be about, let me do the math, about a half a second quicker. You need to be about a second quicker per lap. That's going to be pretty hard.
Yeah, Tony, it looks like it looks like poor Roselli didn't even know where his pit stall was, and hadn't practiced that, so he overshot it, and I think he just said, "That's it. I'm going to call it a day," and that happens. You know, I've done that too.
Yeah, like we said, certainly got into his head, got flustered, forgot where his pit stall was, because it's based, of course, on where you start. And after he started up near the front in the DP grid, second to be exact, doesn't necessarily mean you have the second pit stall on pit road. So Roselli, certainly one mistake compounds another, and he now out of this race. Hour and 20 minutes into the 120 minutes of thunder here at Watkins Glen International. For those of you in Rio Linda, that's 80 minutes into this race. 60 minutes in an hour plus 20. 80 minutes into the 120 minutes of thunder. 40 minutes still remain, just crossing the 2/3 mark. Bruno De Carmo, overall and DP leader. Renato Dornelis, same in second. Daniel Sinka, third. Jim Shedlick, fourth. And Yao Pinot in fifth. GT, Frederick Folstad has not put a wheel wrong all race. Still your GT leader, followed by Pavel Binkowski, Nick Versteege, Ricardo Machuca, and Joe Jr., the top five. We're going to take a break here once again from Watkins Glen International. You're watching the 120 Minutes of Thunder at the Glen. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. 120 minutes of thunder. Bruno De Carmo, overall a DP leader. Top 10 in class, Fernando Dornelis, Daniel Sinka, Jim Shedlick, and Yao Pinho. Followed by Paulo Valente, Ryan Terpstra, haven't talked about him all day, Russell Cow, Marco Archidicano, and Jimmy Bigham. The top 10, and the only cars on the lead lap in DP last time by start finish. GT, on the other hand, they being scored overall a couple laps down, but it has been Frederick Folstad from the drop of the green flag. Pavel Binkowski, Nick Versteege, Ricardo Machuca, and Taro Dahlberg, the top five. Joe Jr., Rory King, after a first 5 minute spin, has recovered to sixth. Roderick Croonin, David Maida, and James Cullen, the top 10 in GT. 15 of those cars started the evening, and a number of them now off the speedway, including Omar Soto, Chad Holmes, and Alice Simonek. For that matter, a lot of cars in general off the speedway. Unofficially, about 27 cars or so out, or excuse me, still on the racetrack, out of the race. Looks like Ken Leach, Rafael Sankey in DP, Enzo Benito in DP. As one car, that's one of the Cadillacs, has an incident over, check that. Yeah, this one of the Cadillacs over in turn number 11 has an issue, but he gets it righted. Chad Holmes in GT, Omar Soto in GT, both out of the race, as is Wolfgang Wright. Or check that, Chad Holmes still in the server. Apparently issues that he has had. He is now recovered from, but these cars all a substantial number of laps in arrears at the very least, and certainly out of contention. Omar Soto, one of those. Wolfgang Wright, Jason Lovett, Jorn Jens, Pierre Ubizu out of the event, Ellis Suminek, Philip Krutz, Alexei Uzijakola out of the race, as is Evandro Fakalossi. He'll be scored shotgun on the field here this evening. Well, welcome to the booth, Sean Cole, who is certainly one of the presenting sponsors of tonight's race, as it is the 120 Minutes of Thunder at the Glen, presented by Inside Sim Racing TV. And if you know Sean, he was racing, but we're not at the 2-hour mark, Sean. What happened in your split, friend?
Yeah, I'm not exactly excited to be here right now. I'm really excited for today's event, but I had a little rough going in my room, and we had a real rough start in our room, and I was the recipient of some unfortunate event. Put me on my lid, and that was the end of my day. So anyway, I'm here. I've been listening to you guys. You guys are doing a great job. It looks like you have a great race going on here.
Yeah, it certainly is a pretty spectacular race, especially in DP. It's kind of calmed down just a little bit with some of the leaders making those one mistakes you talked about in a race, and that being the fatal mistake twice. It has happened. Once to Daniel Sinka and once to Anthony Roselli, both of which were leading at the time. And as we said, Frederick Folstad has not put a wheel wrong all race long. He has been the GT leader since the drop of the green flag. So you ended up on your lid. I got to hear the details of how that happened.
Well, it all began with looks like we had a little racing action going on there, a little more exciting than my day, that's for sure. So yeah, basically we had an inverted grid, which is an unfortunate thing. That was a mistake and something that kind of put a bad mark on our event here, and that put all the Cadillacs in front of the prototypes, and that put it at a very tough start for everybody, and we ended up having a pretty good pile up, and cars just kind of continued to pile into that mayhem, like I've seen in real life as well. So again, unfortunate, and just one of those things where I unfortunately got hit a little too hard and again went flying through the air and landed on my lid, and that's what puts me here today. And again, I just want to thank everybody out here for being a part of all of this. We just had so many entries. I believe in the end we had over 900 drivers start today's race. So that's fantastic. Some great sponsors on hand. So once the opening laps happened, I think everybody's had a real good time, and maybe there are a few out there like me who, you know, I'm sorry to anybody who was caught up in any unfortunate action due to the beginning.
Yeah, Sean, certainly it's been fun. That's what it's all about. And one of the guys having fun right now, trying to find a way by Frederick Folstad, is the guy that just came to pit road in that big, bright yellow Cadillac, and that's Pavel Binkowski. Just peeled off. He was the first one on pit road in the opening round of stops, and we'll see how long everybody else will go and how much ground he'll make up. He came back out right on Folstad's rear bumper last time. However, Folstad with fresh sticker tires was able to pull away from him. We'll see if that trend repeats itself here in this round of pit stops, or if Binkowski is going to be able to make up that extra ground and maybe get by Frederick Folstad here as pit stops cycle out. Up front in DP, Renato Dornelis is nowhere near Bruno De Carmo. The gap last time, 4.9 seconds, although it is closing. And John, I know you've been watching some of this race, and Dornelis is taking them left and right. He is slicing through traffic, doing everything he can to catch a 21 car.
Actually, I think Dornelis is really committed. He is really, it caught my attention. He was much farther back before. I think we might end up having a real race here, and boy, I'm looking forward to it.
Very well could pan out. The one stop out of the way for the Daytona prototypes that we anticipated. Cadillac, the GT cars now making their stops, or starting to make their stops as trouble. One car, looks like the 18 machine, I'm told, spins off, or 8 car, check that. That is Rory King, his second spin of the afternoon. And it looks like as he now on pit road, certainly had an issue back almost in the same spot, just about 300-400 yards shorter than where he did earlier in the race. Again, just got into the toe of the boot, missed his braking point, and off in the grass he went. And boom, right into the tire barrier. And Sean, you know for certain that that tire barrier is, while it's in a good spot for safety, it really sucks as a driver where it's at there at the toe of the boot.
Yeah, it's very unforgiving.
Jimmy Bigham, Doug Learley, that's back at the tail end of the top 10 for the battle to get in the top 10. That's Bigham trying to hold off the 4 of Learley right now. And Learley had some problems, ran out of fuel earlier in the event, had to be towed to pit road. And now trying to work his way back to a respectable top 10. Here he goes to the inside of Bigham. Oh, Bigham nearly comes down on him. Learley that will get that spot move. Doug Learley up to the top 10, guys.
Nice pass there, Doug.
Note to Joe Jr. fans in the GT class, he just made a visit to pit road. He has been down and away now for a couple of seconds. He will rejoin the fray. Still waiting on Frederick Volstad to figure out when he'll come to pit road. Remember, he was the last one to come down the last round of pit stops. And I think he ended up going about, 45 or 50 minutes, if memory serves me correctly. So Volstad, John, he might be in store for a short pit stop, be it a fuel only or at least a very abbreviated fuel stop. That would be something that Pavel Minkowski hadn't counted on with his short stop strategy.
Yeah, Sean and I were talking about that earlier. Sean had figured out that a Cadillac could make, instead of 3 pit stops evenly, he could make 2 and then come in for a little blast of gas and leave the tires on for that last bit. So that might be what he's doing.
We'll certainly have to wait and see. Back up in DP, the battle's starting to tighten up just a little bit. Fernando Dornelis trying to take advantage of Bruno DeCarmo and lap traffic. He gained a little bit, at least the point he can see Bruno DeCarmo now. Can't see him very large, he can barely see him, but he's up there. He knows he's there. And Sean, you know as well as anybody, when you can see that dog that you're chasing, if you're the fox, so to speak, and you see that rabbit in front of you, it just makes you go that much harder and gives you that much more motivation to catch that guy and get by him.
Yeah, I think that's something that not only works with greyhound dogs, but it works with us race drivers as well. If you have something just a little bit out there, it just taunts you and just has you so focused and usually well on your marks and turning some really good lap times trying to run people down.
And Ronaldo, I think, trying a little bit too hard. He actually lost time that lap despite a brief gain during the course of the lap. And sometimes you can try a little too hard, John. You mentioned it earlier. It's all about hitting your marks, concentrating, trying to deal with all the stresses of multi-class road racing. And you're talking the difference between 5 and 10 foot, if less than that, between hitting your mark, getting through the corner at maximum speed, and ended up in the grass and the tire bearing.
Yeah, you can only take things so far. I mean, you got to keep it in control, and again, you overstep your marks, and that's when you went from gaining time to losing time, or even in jeopardy of being out of the race in my case, let's say.
Or maybe, just maybe, he's starting to envision what those prizes are going to look like sitting in the living room of his home, and maybe that's taking a little concentration away. But I'll tell you, Bruno's doing a great job. Bruno is only 22 years old, and he loves Ferraris. How about that?
Well, certainly driving it like it is a Ferrari, or at least like he stole it. Speaking of stealing things, Nick Prestige going to come to pit road, try to steal 4 tires, and maybe a class win over Frederick Volstad if his pit strategy works out. Prestige, car number 90, has been a top 3 runner all race long in the GT class. Just exited the pit lane, now working his way up the hill through the S's here at Watkins Glen. And I still have to wonder if sticker tires are the way to go here, or if that short stop strategy for Frederick Volstad, or at least not short stop, but the longer fuel runs early in the event to get that short run at the end might end up paying off for him. It's going to be really hard to say, but it seems like nothing he has done all race long has been wrong. Everything he's done just has been flawless, to say the least. Also, now finally, here comes Volstad, your leader in GT, down pit road. This will answer all of our questions, guys, as he comes down pitted all the way at the very end of pit road at Cadillac CTS. Comes down at 45 miles an hour. The crew has sight of it. Here is Volstad, Sean.
Nick's still in the boot right now, but he's going to be coming out soon.
And this is interesting. I mean, I heard you guys talking about it. It sounded like he held out 45, 50 minutes. So he actually seems to have gone to sort of the same to match Prestige in terms of strategy here.
Yeah, it's kind
All
of
right, Nick's coming around right now.
See.
Coming around to the start-finish line. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, if he's a start-finish, here comes Volstad. He now crossed the pit road speed line. He can go full out, wide open. And it looks like Volstad will, in fact, just beat him off pit road. In fact, by a pretty substantial margin now as he works out through the S's, up the hill. And actually, second place is going to end up being Binkowski. Prestige way back in third. So Volstad, a flawless stop once again. Frederick Volstad, flawless in victory. Maybe. How's that for alliteration for you? The V and the F don't quite work out, but it's close enough. For that yellow, white, or yellow, red, and blue machine. Reminds me a lot of some of the Venezuelan tourism cars you see here stateside, running some of the NASCAR Real American Series events. Of course, Volstad from Scandinavia, nowhere near Venezuela, so I don't want to associate him with that. That's not where he's from, but certainly doing Scandinavia proud here at Watkins Glen, a racetrack that has had many international winners over the years, hosted Formula One from in the 50s all the way up to 1980. And guys, you win here, you certainly know that you have taken a piece of history. As we talked earlier, it is a very, very prestigious race to win because it is such a technical racetrack, such a historic racetrack, and by golly, you got to be pretty darn lucky here too.
Tony, I just want to cut in. Renato is cutting the distance. It's now down to 3.5 seconds.
As you ride on board with Renato Dornelis down to that 3.5 second lead, he has cut into the Camo. So we'll see if he can catch your leader as you ride on board for a full lap with Renato Dornelis. But Sean, like we were saying, it's getting down to crunch time. We're inside 25 minutes or so to go in this one. It's such a prestigious race, you know what you got to do. Renato trying to do it. Frederick Volstad trying to do it. Bruno DeCarmo trying to do it. I don't care if it is the virtual racing world in iRacing. That's what makes it so cool, is it still has all the prestige, all the blood, sweat, and tears of winning a physical race here. And certainly, you know you did something special when you cross victory, when you cross the finish line first here.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We all do a lot of nightly or weekly racing here in iRacing. That's very commonplace. We're very well versed in racing. But when it comes to one of these events, that there have been practice rooms up for over a month. And you have over 900 drivers attempting to win 10 prizes. It puts a lot on the line. And a lot of these guys have already been running together. So there's a lot of rivalries already having built up prior to today's event. And I think that for these kind of things, there's just a little more at stake than just your every nightly or weekly race.
Yeah, that there is. We're going to give you an update on Pavel Binkowski. He was second in GT. The boot catches another victim. He, on the instep of the boot, got away from him. He let the car get out from under him. He bounced off the Armco a couple times. But Pavel Binkowski, the 33 machine in GT, has made contact with the wall, and that allowed Nick Prestige to get by for second. And Binkowski out there struggling right now, trying to hold on to that machine for the next 23 minutes or so. Tough break for Pavel Binkowski. John was having a great run, but again, I don't think he had anything for Frederick Volstad.
Yeah, I think he also has some kind of suspension damage. He's not taking the turns as well as he should. Let's see if he comes into the pits. No, I guess he's okay. He stayed out. He's going to continue on. Maybe he does have a little suspension damage, but he's not going to let that affect him right now. He's going to stay in there and do what he can, I guess.
Yeah, certainly this late juncture of the race, inside almost 20 minutes left of the 120-minute distance. Certainly do not want to give up any track position if you can avoid it, especially if you're in the top 3 in class. As Binkowski is trouble, big trouble in the racetrack, guys, sounds like.
There is nothing between Bruno DeCarmo and Renato Dornelis right now. There are no cars between them. Well, okay, he just passed a Cadillac, but it's down to 2.5 seconds now.
certainly we'll keep an eye on that. And what we were awing about was Evgeny Dontsov and the 25 machine of Daniel Sinka. They both just about bought the farm off turn number 4, the top of the hill. The S's. Sinka cut through the middle, sliced through there, and just about took out a GT car in the process, but certainly done a fantastic job holding on to those machines, as it looks like it was actually the Bukowski machine they tried to thread the needle on. So all 3 of those drivers doing a fantastic job holding on to their cars. Dornelis, though, up front, as you mentioned just a second ago, starting to close in, but I think maybe Bruno De Carmo knows that he's coming. Down to 1.8 seconds. He gained 0.7 of a second that lap. Dornelis is on a rail. He is headed to the front with less than 20 minutes to go in this one, guys.
Yeah, you can see he actually got held up by Colin there in the CTS, the Cadillac, a little bit, but that gap, that car's not so small now. Now that gap is very, very viewable there by Dornelis.
It's like the rabbit theory. He can see him, he can smell him, he can taste the blood. Can Renato Dornelis of Bruno De Carmo. And right now, Dornelis pushing that car for everything it's worth. Sliding those tires to the nth degree, using every inch of racetrack, as you see there. As he works through the boot, still closing in on Bruno De Carmo. De Carmo has to be worried about Dornelis knowing that he's coming. Or is De Carmo saving a little bit so he could just toy with Dornelis and let him burn his stuff up, trying to get that top spot, guys?
I don't know. He might be saving it, but I'll tell you, I'm not in that position too often, but when you see somebody coming up on you, it really has an effect on you, and you start trying to go a little bit harder and diving deeper into the corners. So I hope Bruno's a real pro about this and can maintain his cool, but we'll see.
Big trouble for Daniel Sinka for the second time this race. He has had an incident at the top of the boot on the back straightaway, that off-camber corner. Looks like he just lost it all on his own. Carried a little bit too much speed in there, overcorrected, and he went driver's side first.
He just went off again.
The barrier.
Boy,
and off track once again for Sinka. And it looks like his night is officially over. He was running in 3rd place, guys, before that incident. Early leader took himself out, it looked like, and then now 2 incidents back-to-back have taken him completely out of the race.
I have a feeling that Sinka probably had chassis damage early on from the first incident and was doing a heroic job of staying competitive and being in 3rd place, and finally just couldn't do it forever, you know. So I'm guessing that's what happened. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, hard really to say, but I think your hypothesis might be right. It probably was something bit on that car that caused it to go a little bit out of control, and he was already wrestling with it around the racetrack and did a fantastic job just to get this far in the event without any sort of further incident. Battle up front in DP. Renato Dornelis went down to about 1.8 seconds. He has now lost a second to Bruno De Carmo. So De Carmo apparently decided to stretch it out just a little bit more as he goes by Rafael Sanki. He also had incident at the very outset of the race. Now being shown a few laps down is Rafael. In fact, 27th spot. 12 laps is going to be this time by in arrears to your leaders as De Carmo off turn number 11. Let's see what the gap stands at this time. He's at start-finish now. Here comes the machine of Renato Dornelis. Lap time at the line. The gap officially 3.1 seconds. So De Carmo stretching it out 4 5/10 of a second a lap. Has Dornelis used up his stuff, John?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but the gap definitely opened up. Maybe Bruno was listening to us and decided to put the pedal to the metal.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. Had a report as well, the Tim machine of Ricardo Machuca engaged in a battle in the GT class. And in fact, he is right behind him. Well, check that. Right behind him is the guy he just passed, Roderick Croonen. As Croonen now comes to pit lane, he also was the last of the Cadillacs to pit earlier in the race. He too going to be in a short final stint, it looks like. He'll have less than 20 minutes to go on this tank of fuel as he'll work his way down to his crew. 4 tires and fuel for Roderick Croonen. And again, 45 miles an hour, the pit road speed limit here at Watkins Glen. Looks like routine service for Roger Croonin, and he will rejoin the fray here in just a matter of minutes. Still inside the top 10. Good run for Roderick. Top 10 run in the GT class. Frederick Folstad, the 17 machine, has been your Cadillac GT leader pretty much all race long. Still lapping some more of the Cadillacs, and he is stretching that lead out over Nick Versiege, Pavel Pinkowski, Ricardo Machuca, and Joe Jr. The top 5 in GT here at the moment, as we are within 15 minutes of the finish here in the 120 Minutes of Thunder at Watkins Glen. Hey guys, Renato has gained once again onto Camo, just a little bit. So while that battle up front continues to seesaw back and forth, we're watching Roger Croonin and the machine in front of him. That's Taro Dahlberg. And that will end up being a battle for position once everything cycles back out. It's going to end up being the battle for 6. So we'll see if, in fact, that maybe, just maybe, Curtin can get by the 39 machine, maybe work his way back up to get by Joe Jr. to be inside the top 5. I don't know if he's going to have enough laps, enough time to do it, but he certainly is going to try. There he goes to the inside, tries to outbrake him, and hits the rumble strip. Dahlberg doing a good job defending, gave him plenty of room. Nonetheless, still stuck behind him is Roger Croonin, and Croonin chomping at the bit, guys. Here comes one of the DPs to bypass this group, split them up at least briefly for the time being, but certainly Croonin
I've been watching Nick Versteege. He's not really all that far back. Folstad, I know Folstad's really dominant in this race, but as down to the latter parts here, the gap really isn't that significant, especially when you consider that
you know, even if he does, again, very impressive after that contact, after the incident that could have ruined us. He wheeled that all the way around this race for the last 25 minutes or so. And, you know, he's still got 12 minutes left in the race, but a fantastic drive by Binkowski.
Yeah, I mean, John mentioned him getting really loose, and it looked like something was wrong with the car as he came second to last corner, but he's doing a great job, like you said, nursing that car or handling that beat-up Cadillac.
Oh! He manhandled it all right, just about it into the inside armco there, in the toe section of the boot. But yeah, you can see that car is definitely not the way it was, but he is with Nvidia and Snap-on on that yellow machine. But great job by Pavel Kowski. If you're curious about up front, Renato Camo, Renato still about a 2.5 second gap from the 21 back to the 26. Shedlin currently being in third. Yao Pinho is fourth, and Paul.
Beautiful paint, and just wondering if he's going to be able to keep position to the end of the
get the extra. And you'll see everything there with an inside decal on it. You never know exactly how that's going to work. Getting down to the late stages of this one, I know, John, you talked about a little bit earlier, fatigue setting in. And Sean, I know you've been in the same situation. You're just about inside 10 minutes left. That's probably about 5 or 6 laps to go here at Watkins Glen. If you're Bruno de Carmo or if you're Frederick Folstad, do you start to think about the trophy and the champagne and what it tastes like at this point, or do you have to stay focused? I mean, you know, it's so easy, we've seen, to make a mistake here.
I gotta tell you, there's nothing worse you can do as a driver than start thinking about the checkered flag, or champagne, or a trophy, or a new video card by Nvidia or something. That just never works out. You gotta just drive this thing all the way to the very end, and right now he's in a real dogfight with Dornelis. So there's no dropping your guard, and any other thought outside of driving is just enough to miss a mark, and that can be critical after this kind of time period. And it does get easy to let your mind drift. I mean, that's part of endurance racing, is staying in there both mentally and physically.
And, you know, you talk about it, and even, I'm sure we've got a lot of racers from iRacing on our broadcast, and a lot of families and friends as well. But, you know, you don't think about it, but really, somebody on one of these sims is just as athletic as somebody in one of those cars. I mean, the only difference really is the heat and the G-forces, but mentally you have to deal with the same exact distractions, and as much as a lot of people might not believe it, you do get sweaty. You begin to lose fluids. I mean, you really are tired at the end of one of these. Big trouble!
Oh,
Bruno de
man!
Carmo! He has found trouble at the top of the S's, and it looks like Bruno de Carmo's day is over. De Carmo, the third leader in the 120 minutes of Thunder, has found trouble. Lapping one of the CTSs, they made contact. De Carmo hard into the Armco, up on 2 wheels, and that has allowed Renato Dornelis to come by. And just like we were talking about, guys, that one mental lapse in judgment has cost Bruno de Carmo a win here at Watkins Glen.
You hate to see something like that happen, but, you know, again, whether it's on the first lap or the last lap, that is a big part of multi-class racing, and there's no getting around it. I mean, it's the good and the bad of it, and it's something that we love, and it's the reason why we do it, to be honest with you, and very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, I really feel bad for Bruno, but boy, under those situations, in the S's, trying to pass a slower car, and he knew that Renato was gaining on him, and that's all she wrote. Really feel bad for Bruno there.
It's kind of like earlier, a couple of leaders we've seen, Cinca as well as the 5 machine, Roselli, having the same type of issue. Ricardo did the same thing. He had pressure coming from behind, and you have to wonder if maybe it got into his psyche, and he tried to take that one extra chance that maybe he shouldn't have taken. I mean, 2 seconds, you know, in one sense is not a lot of time here at Watkins Glen. In another sense is a long period of time. You take that extra little second and maybe back off where you can catch them in the straightaway and pass them a little cleaner. It's hard to say. But the good news is if you're Jim Shedlick, you now are up to 2nd. Yao Pinho 3rd, Paula Valente 4th, and Ryan Terpstra has now worked his way into the overall top 5, and of course top 5 in the Daytona prototype class as well. GT, very little has changed. Frederick Falstad, Nick Prestige, Ricardo Machuca 3rd, Joe Jr., and Roderick Croonin now up to 5th. Things staying pretty sane and pretty similar all through the field, fairly consistent. Again, guys, just a matter of making your way to the end. And this is, like you said, you've got to drive all the way to the end, because we just saw what happens if you get just that little bit of that little lapse in concentration.
I'm looking at Dornelis' time right now, and he's definitely going to stroke it now to the end. There's no reason for him to work hard. He's got a huge lead over 2nd place. I don't anticipate anything else happening to him. He's going to be under no stress, so we'll see.
You know, I gotta just say something as a Cadillac driver that, you know, going up those S's, the car handles pretty well. You get a Daytona prototype coming up behind you or next to you, and that all goes out the window. They're a handful, and, you know, it's not easy for the Cadillac guy to get up there and not lose a ton of speed. And to be honest, in most of the practice sessions, we talked about that not being a good passing zone. And so I kind of have to say that as a DP driver, you're taking a big risk and a lot of faith in the Cadillac driver when you're making a pass there. And you can see the kind of pressure he might have felt that he was under to take a chance at that spot on the track.
Yeah, Sean, I got to say, this is one of the most exciting races I've watched. It's been totally unpredictable, and I've really enjoyed watching this from the broadcast booth.
Yeah, and Sean, you certainly raised a very good point there about knowing that it's not exactly a great passing zone. It is such a one-lane racetrack through there, and yes, it's a very high-risk opportunity. If it's the last lap for the overall win, yeah, you might take it, but we've seen a couple times here so far, and it's all involved lap traffic. It seems like nothing that the Cadillacs really did wrong as much as the DP maybe took a chance, I think, that maybe they shouldn't have, or maybe they should have thought twice about. And, you know, the Cadillac didn't expect them to take it, and next thing you know, there's contact, and the leader ends up in the fence. Certainly a very unfortunate circumstance, but it's happened 3 times so far here tonight to Anthony Roselli, to
Picturesque moment there as Renato Dornelis kind of worked his way by Frederick Fulstad just before the S's, so took advantage of getting by actually 2 Cadillacs there before they were going to hold him up too much.
Yeah, and that's Pavel Binkowski. Now, earlier in the race, Sean, of course, you were in your split, but this was the battle for the lead for the first half of the race until Binkowski pulled off on... Oh, there he goes! Binkowski just about bought the farm one more time. But, yeah, this was the battle for the class lead for most of the race, and Falstad, just as we've said, has not put a wheel wrong all race long. He has been flawless for this entire event. And now within the final 4 minutes of this one, looks like he is just mere moments away from claiming a class win as he continues to pull away from Pavel Binkowski, who right now is being scored 7th in class. And guys, we are just, in case somebody's just joining us here on PSR TV, of course it is somewhat late, about 8:15 here on the East Coast. But Renato Dornelis has led the majority of this event in the DP class, although he has not been unchallenged. It has been a very eventful race up front, the very front of the field, with Anthony Roselli as well as Daniel Sinka, and just most recently, the machine of Bruno De Carmo falling out of the race as the leader. All 3 of those being tangled up in traffic with somebody chasing them very heatedly. Mistakes have been the order of the day here, but Dornelis leading now by 26 seconds over Jim Shedlick, Paulo Valente, Ryan Terpstra, and Russell Cowell. That's with about 3 minutes to go here in this one. GT, it's been all Frederick Folstad, Nick Versteege, Ricardo Machuca, Joe Jr., and Roger Croonin as you watch a replay of some of the action here from a little bit earlier on your screen. Guys, and that is one of the incidents of your leaders. I think most recently it was Bruno De Carmo up in the S's that ended up with that incident. Of course, Dornelis was only 2 seconds behind. You saw him flash through the picture, avoiding the accident scene as well. But nonetheless, guys, within 2-3 minutes of the finish of this one, and it looks like Renato Dornelis will get the 2 to go signal this time by, and we are just about done with the 120 minutes of thunder here at Watkins Glen.
You know, I think there's going to be a big party tonight in the town of Porto Alegre in Brazil. That's Renato Dornelis' hometown. And seeing that he comes from a whole family of racers, real racers, they're probably all listening to this or watching this right now, and they are jumping up and down. They are so happy for Renato Dornelis.
Trouble for Pavel Binkowski once again, as we talked about him having issues coming out of the boot. He has gone around, made contact. Now he's trying to find himself a hole in traffic. But Binkowski limping back to the finish in this one. And it looks like if he can make it back to the finish, guys, he will finish in the top 10 in GT, but certainly not the afternoon he was looking for after battling for the lead early. Tough break for Pavel Binkowski as Renato Dornelis circulating here at the Glen for what we assume is the penultimate time, next to last circuit around the famed Watkins Glen International Course. He works now down the hill into the boot, Sean.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking through a lot of the drivers here, and I got to tell you, I'm really impressed with the amount of laps that we've turned here, the amount of time. I mean, a 2-hour event, and we're looking at some pretty tight battles. I mean, you consider the kind of incidents that have taken some of the leaders out of this race, but that gap between first and second sure is a good gap, but you do still have 6 cars on the lead lap in the top class, the DPs. And looking into the Cadillacs, I'm blown away, but, you know, full set, again, he's only got about a 1-turn advantage over Versteege, and Ricardo Machuca's kind of jumped up quite a bit in positions, but he's about the same distance back. So you got those first 1, 2, 3 Cadillacs not that far apart, considering 2 hours into this event, and the amount of mixed class racing they're encountering.
Anticipate white flag this time for Renato Dornelis. He'll cross, start, finish. So white flag out for Renato Dornelis. Last lap around. And that's our unofficial timer. Check that. Now we're being told there's less than 5 minutes left. We'll get a check on that and see exactly which one is the official clock we need to work by. Nonetheless, Dornelis out front by a substantial margin. En route, we assume, to victory. But guys, if you're in his seat and the clocks are a little different, you got to be wondering which one's the one you need to go by.
I'm wondering, the clock might not have started until after the beginning of the pace lap, so that 2-hour mark might have been from the drop of the green, or at least the rollout, and that might not have included.
It's actually being told just under 3.5 minutes to go, so with that said, it'll be the 2 laps to go signal this time. Well, we like the false climaxes here on PSR TV. It's just how we do things. Get you all worked up, and then we do it all over again because it's just that much more exciting.
That's more of a double climax than a false climax, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to have to watch it here. It's a family broadcast.
Oh, boy. We won't go any further down that road.
I'm looking at the pros. I made a list of all the pros that are involved in the race. Oh, we just had a Cadillac go off the road here. I'm trying to figure out who it is. It's Binkowski.
So, again, still struggling. Final few minutes in this one, Binkowski.
Wait a minute, this could be ugly if he takes anybody out while backing up right there.
Yeah, another bad spot for him, but Pavel Binkowski and the boot have not been friends today, guys.
No, he's doing a good job of nursing that car for a while, but I think each one of these incidents is making that more and more difficult. At this point, he's kind of become a little moving obstacle out there.
So anyway, back to what I was saying before, I made a list of the pros that were involved here, and they were all on the prototype side with the Rileys. And Doug Leary is the highest placed pro in 7th position right now. Qualified, I think he was 4th on the grid, right?
Actually, 6th in DP was Leary, and certainly still having a good run. Of course, he is not quite up to where he was earlier, being shown 7th overall and 7th in DP for Doug Leary, 6th fastest Daytona prototype on the grid. Alexei Uzi-Jakola was right there with him as well. He has fallen out of the event after some electrical issues earlier in this one, but no problems for Renato Dornelis. Now, there is no question. White flag, this time for Renato Dornelis. 1 circuit remaining around Watkins Glen International. Less than 1.5 minutes remaining in this one, which means it'll be time for him to come around and see the checker flag next time by. Less for sure. less for certain than 5 miles to go in this one as Dornelis continues to click them off.
He's got a pretty open field right now. He's going to catch some traffic before the lap is up, though.
So it looks like Renato Dornelis really kind of to fight a lot of adversity from that pole position to be back in this position here 2 hours later. But great job from him in that inside SimRacing.tv sponsored car.
So Frederick
He's
Folstad
coming up upon a
just took the
couple
white
of Cadillacs, and let's see if they move over for him.
Clock officially having run out here at Watkins Glen. Your GT leader, Frederick Folstad, has in fact taken the white flag. He is on his final circuit of the Watkins Glen International Racecourse here in the Finger Lakes region of New York. We anticipate Renato Dornelis should see the checkers this time by. One final circuit for him with 25 seconds up on the rest of the field.
And it's got to be a little bit of a heartbreak for Prestige as he came over the top of the hill there at the end of the stretch. He could see Folstad up there, oh so close, but still so far away.
And congratulations to Renato Dornelis on a turn number 11. He'll claim the checkered flag in Daytona Prototype with 120 minutes of thunder at Watkins Glen. Frederick Folstad, GT leader.
Renato's doing a little burnout here too.
Folstad on turn number 9. He now on his final lap towards start finish in what has been a flawless race from the get-go. Led from the pole, led pretty much every single lap in GT through turn number 11, and Frederick Folstad will win the GT class here at the 120 minutes of thunder at the Glen, finishing 12th overall. A very respectable effort from the Cadillac CTS driver. So congratulations to Renato Dornelis and Frederick Folstad, winners here at Watkins Glen. We will have a word with them and some other top finishers here in just a little bit. Don't go away. We're taking a quick break. Get a word in for some of our sponsors. We'll be back to talk with Renato Dornelis, Frederick Folstad, and others here at Watkins Glen.
I'd like to thank some of the great sponsors that are on board here, starting with PSR TV and iRacing.com. Without iRacing, none of this would have happened. Nvidia is giving up a GTX 670 video card. Grandstand's on board and they're putting up a wheel stand. GT Omega Racing is putting up their Pro Simulator. Derek Speare Designs has put up a Track Boss button box. And RSeat has a triple or single monitor stand. It's going to be the choice of the winner.
Very cool. In addition to that, we also have the Logitech G27 compliments of iRacing. Tamiya USA is going to be putting up, I'm not sure an RC or a model, but one or the other. Thrustmaster is giving up a TH8RS shifter. We've got the Marcos Ambrose die-cast iRacing NASCAR, and this cool camouflage hat.
iRacing hat.
Yeah,
yep.
That's very unique. I haven't seen those anywhere.
Yep.
And then every winner and every split is going to get an Inside Sim Racing sticker.
All right.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen International here in the Finger Lakes region of New York as the 120 Minutes of Thunder, the 2-hour special presented by Inside Sim Racing, has concluded here at this historic facility. It's been a great race. Renato Dornelis, we're going to try to get a word with him, as well as Frederick Folstad. our young interns are trying to chase them down. If we can get a word with them before we go off air, we certainly will, but they've already had other obligations. They are being rushed off too. And again, if we can get a word with any of your top finishers, we will in fact do so before we go off air. Renato Dornelis was the overall DP class winner, followed by Jim Shedlick in second, Paula Valente third, Ryan Terpstra fourth, Russell Cow in fifth. Marco Archiucano is sixth, followed by Doug Learlid, Jimmy Bigham, George Sandman, and Evgeny Donsov, the top 10. Yao Pinho fell very late in the running. He finished 11th. 12th, and GT class winner Frederick Folstad beat Dick Versteege in 13th to the GT finish line. Marcus Storr in the prototype was 14th. GT Machuca was 15th. Joe Jr., Roderick Cronin, Taro Dahlberg, David Maida 19th. Bruno DeCarmo, after his accident, will be credited with a 20th place finish in prototype and overall. Pavel Binkowski, 21st. James Cullen, 22nd. Dirk Reinhard in a Cadillac, 23rd. The prototype, Rafael Samke, 24th. Kid Leach, the GT car, 25th. Rory King in GT, 26th. Prototype of Sinka, 27th, as was Roselli. Both of those drivers led early and, for that matter, late, until incidents with lap cars took them out of the running. The GT of Chad Holmes, 29th. Attila Kiss, 30th. Enzo Bonito, 31st. Omar Soto was involved in a couple of accidents. He finishes 32nd. Wolfgang Wright, 33rd. Jason Levitt, 34th. Jorn Jens, 35th. Pierre Urbizu is 36th. Alice Siminek, 37th. Philip Krutz, the 40 car, 38th. Alexei Usi-Jakola, one of the first cars out of the race, finished 39th. And Evandro Facolosi will be shotgun on the running order at the conclusion of tonight's 120 Minutes of Thunder at Watkins Glen. It was a very eventful race, very fantastic race, and first off, John Hill, we baptized you by fire here on PSR TV today, and the good news is you had a pretty entertaining race to watch in the process.
Hey, you know, we had 2 drivers finish with 0 incidents, and that's got to be some kind of miracle right there with this race going on. Russell Cow, I believe, and I'm trying to find the other name here. Evgeny Donsov, and I apologize for butchering the name there. Oh, by the way, you know, anybody looking at this will see that Dornelis had pole, and Dornelis won the race, and would look at it and say, well, that was a pretty cut and dry race. Anything but. This was just a great race, and Dornelis was so determined to get back to the lead, and he took it, and boy, there's a real pro there, as far as I'm concerned.
Certainly did a very fantastic job. And, of course, Dornelis from Brazil, the native there, and the Scandinavian Folstad winning in GT. Very international mix of competitors here at the 120 Minutes of Thunder at Watkins Glen. Sean Cole from presenting sponsor, Inside Sim Racing TV. We really didn't want you up here in the booth, but we're glad to have you, although I know you weren't glad to be here. But I'm sure you've got a number of impressions of the event as a whole, in particular the top split here on PSR TV.
You know, I just got to tell you, I'm glad to be here ultimately, because this event was really about bringing a lot of people together. Some people have been in iRacing a long time, and some people who are new to iRacing. That's why we got a special deal out of iRacing for this. And so really this event was about a lot of different people, and I'm glad to be a big part of it. I'm glad we could put it on for everybody. And, you know, we really couldn't have done it without the help of iRacing. We couldn't have done it without the help of you guys here at PSR TV. I'd like to personally thank Tony and John, you know, both of you guys for being in the booth, Chuck and Ian for being in the background. I'd like to thank the rest of our sponsors real quick, but, you know, Nvidia, Grandstands, GT Omega, Tamiya, Derek Speare, RSeat, and all the people behind the scenes who made this be a big, big deal. And it wasn't just today's race, but it's been all month long with a lot of training sessions. We did some special beginner sessions, trying to get some new people up to speed, and all of that has made this a really spectacular event, and I'm just really proud. And we did have a little hiccup here, and that happens from time to time. But ultimately, it was a really great event, and this all builds on the future. I mean, we did the March on Michigan 3 months ago, and in 3 months, we're going to have another event just like this. Not sure the combination, don't know the car or track yet. We're going to put together some great prizes and hopefully get another great event with a great turnout, great broadcast, and something that all of us as sim racers can be so proud of.
And guys, please visit the forums of Inside Sim Racing, where you can vote on the next cars and next tracks that will be in the next event.
Absolutely. Pay attention to everything going on there at Inside Sim Racing. Check out some of the shows as well. A lot of information that Darren Ganji and Sean and the whole crew have over there at Inside Sim Racing. A lot of neat things they have coming up on the platter. Of course, all those things available over on the Inside Sim Racing TV website. On behalf of Ian Bushing, Ilka Hopala, Chuck Johnson, Sean, John, the entire PSR TV crew, my name's Tony Stevens, signing off, saying we'll see you in 3 months' time at a track yet to be determined for the next Inside Sim Racing TV special. And, of course, don't forget, always on PSR TV and iRacing, the NASCAR iRacing.com World Championship, as well as the Nvidia Grand Prix Championship here for the road racing side on iRacing. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great Independence Day weekend if you're in America. And if you're not, we'll have a great weekend nonetheless. We'll see you at the races. Good night, everybody.